Chapter 101, Ya Fei Makes Her Move. When the young man entered the reception hall, several gazes discreetly brightened. His eyes swept the room like a searchlight, and after a brief scan, they suddenly fixed on a particular spot. A fierce, malicious smile split his face. Xiao Kun, who had been talking with Ya Fei, felt a thread of killing intent brush his spirit soul and immediately fell silent. He turned his head and saw a burly man striding toward them with an unfriendly expression. The man's cultivation was only at the peak Do master level, yet his manner was aggressive. Xiao Kun's sudden movement drew Ya Fei's attention. Her beautiful eyes narrowed as she followed his gaze. "Mujan," she said indignantly. Hearing the name, Xiao Kun's memory clicked into place. Mujan of the Mu family was notorious for being obsessively infatuated with Ya Fei. In the original story, Mujan had even tried to ambush Xiao Yan during a Nalan family gathering because of her. If Xiao Yan hadn't reacted in time, he would have been badly hurt. Ya Fei had been so fed up with Mujan's harassment that she once avoided him by hiding out at the Wutan branch of the middle auction house. Thinking of that, a flash of hostility colored Xiao Kun's expression. Mujan, however, was only a Do master. Even the coldness of a Dozong's presence should have unnerved him. But he'd fought on the battlefield for years. That life had made him braver, or perhaps more reckless. Still, under Xiao Kun's steady gaze, Mujan felt a chill creep up his spine. He scanned the hall, looking for the source of the intimidation, and found only Xiao Kun and Ya Fei staring at him. The rest of the guests watched with curiosity. His plan had been to slip behind them and teach the arrogant youth a lesson, but now he realized he'd been seen. Doubt and fear twisted in him for a moment, though his obsession with Ya Fei quickly pushed the warning aside. Even if he couldn't catch them unawares, he was convinced he could beat the man beside her in a fair fight. He squared his shoulders and strode on. Xiao Kun watched him coming and was mildly surprised by Mujan's nerve. He had not exerted any Do Qi or soul power, only his mere Dozong aura, and that should have been enough to cow a Do master. Still, given Mujan's harassment of Ya Fei and the hostile intent he'd just displayed, Xiao Kun decided it would be improper for him to personally crush the man. Better to let Ya Fei handle it and vent her anger. "Ya Fei," Xiao Kun said softly, "if this man's been bothering you, take the chance to deal with him properly." Ya Fei's face hardened. She had long been sick of this persistent nuisance. Although she was only at Du King rank now, still overwhelmingly stronger than Mujan, she'd been reluctant to make a scene before. This time, she intended to give him a lesson. She nodded once. Mujan, having been discovered, stopped trying to be covert and came straight at them. Suppressing his own anxiety, he shouted at Xiao Kun, "Brat, are you the one who dared to lay a hand on the woman I love?" The shout hushed the noisy hall. All eyes turned toward Mujan. When the guests recognized him as Mujan of the Mu family, they leaned back to watch the drama unfold. This was the sort of spectacle they enjoyed. A notorious bully potentially getting his comeuppance. Princess Yao Yu swirled the red wine in her glass and smiled. He really went straight for them. Looks like he's about to get taught a lesson. The wealthy young men beside her nodded in agreement, eager for the show. Xiao Kun didn't bother to answer. He reached out, took Ya Fei's jade-like hand, and gazed tenderly at her. Mujan's face flushed with fury. "Damn it," he roared. Do Qi burst from his body like a coiling storm. A blurred Do Qi armor shimmered over his form. He was closer to great Do Master's strength than people realized. Mujan stamped the ground, and spiderweb cracks spread out from his foot as his figure blurred into a green streak and lunged at Xiao Kun. "Azure Wood Thorn," he bellowed. In an instant, Mujan was before them, his right fist wreathed in Do Qi that formed sharp wooden thorns. He smashed it toward Xiao Kun with full force. Xiao Kun didn't move. His stillness made Mujan think the young man was terrified and helpless. But before Mujan could gloat, a slender, jade-like hand shot out and stopped his fist dead. The delicate hand should have been shredded by the wooden thorns, yet it did not tremble. With one effortless push, the hand broke the barrage of thorns. There was a crisp snap as Mujan's arm went limp, then an invisible force slammed his body and hurled him backward. He skidded across the floor and carved a 10-meter trench into the stone before coming to rest, utterly immobile. The hall erupted, Impossible! How could that be? People shouted in astonishment as they watched what had just happened. Mujan lay in the trench, broken and helpless, several bones visibly fractured. Even with medicine, he would need months to recover. Those who knew more about fighting and cultivation fell silent for a different reason. The aura Yafei had released when she intervened was not at all weak. It was comparable to the Do King experts they respected. To unleash that level of power with such ease was shocking. For the rest of the guests, though, it was simply a spectacle. The persistent nuisance, Mujan now lying humiliated on the floor, while the woman he'd obsessed over stood composed and victorious. After a moment, Princess Yao Yue, the little princess who had seen the most, was the first to recover. She quickly patted the still stunned Liu Ling beside her and asked urgently, "Did you feel the aura she just released?" It felt like a Do King. Although she hadn't seen Yafei's Do Chi manifested wings, the imperial family had several Do King experts. The overwhelming aura Yafei had just unleashed was one Yao Yu had felt many times from those veterans. It left no doubt. Liu Ling, seasoned from his time in the Cloud Mist sect, drew in a long breath and, still in disbelief, replied, "Yes, that terrifying aura, definitely a Do King." Their suspicions confirmed, the two exchanged glances, astonishment mirrored in each other's eyes. They slowly turned toward the corner of the living room where Yafei now stood, the woman who had stepped in to stop Mujan. The two prodigies studied her closely, trying to understand how she could have become a Do King at such a young age. They considered themselves gifted. By 30, they would be fortunate to reach Do Ling. Do King was unimaginable. It didn't make sense. When Yafei had returned to the imperial capital a year ago, she had shocked everyone by being at the peak of the Do Master realm. Her reputation as a genius had spread through the capital, even impressing Princess Yao Yu. Yet in just over a year, she had broken through multiple realm bottlenecks and reached Do King. For many, such a rapid rise was unbelievable. The truth that Tir Tengshan had deliberately concealed the speed of Yafei's advancement. Her progress since returning had been astonishingly fast. Some would not stand by and watch the middle family grow stronger, so the family hid the truth until she reached a point where exposure was safer. Only a few in the middle family knew she had already reached Do Ling long before this, and the Do King breakthrough from a few days ago was known only to Xiao Kun and Yafei. "Mujan," Yafei said coldly, looking at him as he lay stunned on the floor. "You should have felt the gap between us. Because of your past actions, I'm teaching you a lesson. Learn to behave." Mujan could barely form coherent thoughts. Overwhelmed by pain and shock after being bested by Yafei's Do King-level blow, he knelt there for a long minute, disbelieving. He forced his head around and stared up at the woman he had longed for night and day, as if trying to verify some impossible truth. When Yafei spoke, reality finally broke free of denial. He spat a mouthful of blood, heaving with unwillingness, and then fainted from fury and humiliation. He knew that with Yafei's cultivation, he had no chance. Yafei showed no visible reaction. She had intentionally stopped short of killing him. Injuring Mujan would be enough that the Mu family wouldn't dare act rashly against her now. The noise of the scuffle drew others in, members of the Nalan House entourage and Matir Tengshan among them. They entered just in time to see Mujan collapsed on the floor, bloodied. For a direct descendant of the Mu family to be badly wounded under the Nalan roof was a serious matter. People looked where most were looking, toward Yafei and Xiao Kun, whose calm demeanor seemed strangely at odds with the chaos. The Do King aura a few moments earlier, plus this unnatural scene, made Nalanjie connect the dots. This must be Xiao Kun's doing. Mujan's infatuation with Yafei was common knowledge in the capital. It made sense that Mujan had been badly hurt because he provoked something over Yafei. Nalanji's face darkened with concern. After a moment's thought, he decided to prioritize damage control, act as though nothing happened, and quietly arranged to have Mujan taken back to the Mu family. As he moved to instruct his staff, the Nalan family's old butler, who had watched the whole incident, approached. "Master," the butler reported, "Mujan provoked the fight, and Yafei of the middle family defeated him in a single move. Judging by the aura she released, she may already be a Do King." You're saying the Do King aura I sensed just now came from Yafei? Nalanji demanded, eyes widening. He looked toward Yafei with incredulity. He couldn't understand how, after the Jiama Empire had produced the prodigy Xiao Kun, someone he had known, Yafei, could also turn into such a powerhouse. Master, I'm certain, we all saw it. Yafei was the one who acted. Yafei, catching Nalanji's stare, did not hide. Having already revealed her strength, she smiled and nodded calmly. The butler's confirmation and her composed expression left Nalanji little choice but to accept the truth. Yafei had reached Do King. He then turned sourly toward Meteor Tengshan. Patriarch Tengshan, how could you keep this hidden? Only now that she's a Do King do you tell us. Meteor Tengshan looked mildly surprised but effortlessly assumed the expression of someone who had just learned the news. That girl Yafei has always been surprising. I only just found out myself. I'll ask her about it later. Nalanji didn't believe him. He curled his lip and, adopting a flattering tone, said, It seems the middle family is on the rise. A talent like Yafei, paired with Xiao Kun, your family's standing will be changed. You'll have to help us more in the future. Meteor Tengshan read his intent and returned the compliment smoothly. Not at all. No matter how formidable Yafei is, she cannot compare to your granddaughter, the young sect leader of the Cloud Mist sect. With a behemoth like the Cloud Mist sect behind you, the middle family is still far behind. The Nalan family should be the one helping us. The flattery placated Nalanji. Then, with a meaningful smile, he steered the conversation to what mattered to clans: marriage. But will your middle family be willing to marry off such a gifted woman? It was common practice to marry an exceptional woman into the family to preserve the bloodline and strength. Nalanji's suggestion hid more than politeness. The annulled engagement between the Nalan and Xiao families made him eager to reconnect. Meteor Tengshan answered calmly, Nalanji clan chief, you needn't worry. We have our own arrangements. In truth, Meteor wasn't worried. He knew something of Xiao Kun's mysterious background and strength. If Yafei married, she would bring even more benefits to the middle family. Given how poor Yafei's aptitude had once seemed, yet how quickly she had advanced now, he suspected Xiao Kun's hand in her progress. There was nothing more to say. Nalanji, not getting the answer he wanted, stopped pushing. He waved his hand and told the butler to give the unconscious Mujan a healing medicinal pill and arrange for him to be taken back to the Mu family. Whether the Mu family pursued the matter later was their business. The Nalan family would not be the ones to provoke another Do King expert. Patriarch Tengshan, are you satisfied with this arrangement? Nalanji asked. We are grateful, Clan Chief Nalan, Meteor replied with a smile. The two then walked, almost in step, toward Yafei and Xiao Kun. Yafei and Xiao Kun understood Nalanji's stance. The clan was taking their side without embroiling itself further, so they both smiled and nodded as the two men approached. Yafei, you've caused trouble for the Nalan family. I apologize for this, Meteor said, but Yafei cut him off. Nonsense. Manager Yafei, no apology is necessary, Nalanji said quickly as he approached. I've heard the details from the butler. Mujan overestimated himself. I expect his grandfather will thank you for teaching the boy a lesson before he causes a larger scandal. Yafei bowed politely. Thank you, Clan Chief Nalan. Xiao Kun, standing silently beside her, added, We appreciate your understanding. Nalanji waved it away modestly. Meteor leaned forward, curiosity finally getting the better of him. Yafei, how did your strength suddenly jump to Do King? The question caused a ripple through the room. Even those farther away leaned in. Yafei glanced at Xiao Kun. He nodded once. Yafei took Xiao Kun's hand and smiled. It's thanks to Xiao Kun. As I thought. Meteor's reaction confirmed his suspicions. Xiao Kun had some inexplicable power behind him. Nalanji's expression hardened into shocked awe. To have someone capable of helping a person advance to Do King in such a short time implied extraordinary backing or methods. The news made Nalanji regretful. The Nalan family's fractured relationship with the Xiao family had cost them a chance. If the Nalan family was negligent in supervising Mujan, why don't you stay after the banquet? Nalanji asked. We'll host you to show our apology and our hospitality. Xiao Kun shook his head. No, thank you for the offer, Elder Nalan. Yafei shook her head as well. Nalanji sighed internally, disappointed, and forced a smile. All right, but the Nalan family welcomes you at any time. After a few more polite exchanges, Nalan Jie and Matir Tengshan left. Word quickly spread through the living room. Yafei had reached Do King in her 20s with Xiao Kun's assistance. People who wanted to befriend Xiao Kun began approaching them in one group after another. After a while, Xiao Kun grew weary of the social niceties and turned to Yafei with a smile. Now that you've become a Do King, you've never really flown properly, have you? Yes, Yafei replied, puzzled by the sudden question. She remembered only the brief moments immediately after her breakthrough when she'd experienced hovering for the first time, not the full exhilaration of true flight. Then today, I'll take you to truly feel what it's like. He took her hand, and from behind him, a pair of golden-green wings formed out of Dochi. Dochi manifested wings. Together! Yafei blinked, still a little stunned. Oh, right. She summoned her Dochi as well, and a magnificent pair of crimson wings blossomed behind her. They flapped in unison and rose through the main doors, hand in hand, soaring into the sky. The sight stunned everyone in the reception hall. Many rushed outside, looking up as discussions broke out. A Do King expert can fly freely like a bird. Both of them are Do Kings. Flying side by side, that's such a romantic image. Princess Yao Yue lifted her pretty head and watched them fly hand in hand across the sky. Even the usually clever girl couldn't help murmuring. It truly was a unique romance, the kind only the powerful could enjoy. At first, they were slow, Yafei's inexperience keeping them gentle. Once she grew accustomed, they streaked across the capital like twin streams of light, brilliant and swift, drawing gasps and admiration from everyone below. Chapter 103. Hai Bodong exits seclusion. After Yafei felt confident in her flying, the two of them didn't linger in the air. They flew straight for the middle family. The guards were surprised to see Yafei and Xiao Kun overhead. Yafei already at Do King level, manifesting Dochi wings, but they didn't stop them. Xiao Kun and Yafei descended into the courtyard where they had lived before and landed slowly. Xiao Yan, who had been cultivating in the yard, was stunned. He couldn't understand why Yafei had suddenly become a Do King. His confusion turned quickly into questions. Xiao Kun shrugged and offered a half-joking explanation. He had happened to obtain a pill that kept a girl's appearance youthful, and the cultivation increase had been an incidental side effect. Xiao Yan could only sigh. He knew he would never figure out how many lucky things Xiao Kun had around him. Xiao Kun told Xiao Yan to get some rest so he could do well at tomorrow's alchemist convention. The next morning, after washing up, Xiao Kun found Xiao Yan already waiting in the courtyard, an indication Xiao Yan took the convention seriously. Xiao Kun glanced at Yafei, in a snug red cheongsam at his side, and asked, "Has Elder Hai come out of seclusion yet?" More than 10 days had passed since Xiao Kun gave Hai Bodong the Spirit Recovery Purple Pill and the Zhengwang Pill. Hai Bodong had eagerly gone into seclusion, and, apart from being forced out briefly by the commotion yesterday while Xiao Kun was refining ingredients, had not appeared. With the convention underway and only 3 days left until the 3-year agreement, Xiao Kun hoped Hai Bodong would attend the Cloud Mist sect visit to lend them support. "I haven't heard anything," Yafei said after a moment. She thought Xiao Kun still remained a Do Huang. He hadn't told her about his breakthrough to peak Do Zong, so she assumed he wanted Hai Bodong's help. "Do you need him for something?" "It's nothing serious, just asking," Xiao Kun replied. "After all, we'll be family someday." "Humph, don't talk nonsense." "How is it nonsense? It'll happen sooner or later." They immediately resumed their teasing, earning an eye roll from Xiao Yan, and the matter of Hai Bodong was set aside, at least for now. Then, as the three reached the main entrance, a sharp, crane-like cry rang out from deep under the middle family grounds. The sound tunneled through the earth and spread across much of the imperial capital like a shout of unrestrained joy. Along with it came a powerful aura, one that had already reached the late stage of Do Huang. The city fell into stunned silence. The clamor of the alchemist convention was cut short as people tried to make sense of it. Those who knew the family's inner affairs were elated. This clearly meant the Mittel family had grown stronger. Experts across the capital who understood the implications turned their attention to the Mittel estate, the only family here besides the imperial family to possess a Du Huang. Recalling the terrifying pressure they had just felt, many felt a new, involuntary respect. Such a commotion. It looks like Haibodong has not only recovered, he's broken through in cultivation, murmured an old man in simple hemp robes, watching in the direction of the Mittel family. When Haibodong had returned to the capital half a year earlier, Jia Xingqian had tested him and found his strength had fallen from a 5-star Douhuang to a 2-star. That drop had eased some of Jia Xingqian's concerns about the Mittel family. An active Douhuang could tip the balance of power, but he had continued to watch Haibodong closely. Now, in just half a year, Haibodong's aura appeared to have surged at least to the 7-star level. Jia Xingqian felt compelled to investigate. The Alchemist Convention is starting soon. I'll invite him to attend and take the chance to gauge his true strength, Jia Xingqian decided. He spread a pair of golden wings and flew toward the Mittel estate. After hearing the cry at the main gate, Xiao Kun and the others realized they still had time. They weren't in a hurry for the convention anymore. They decided to go congratulate Haibodong first. At the entrance to the underground chamber, they found many of the Mittel family's senior members already gathered, including Mitir Tengshan. A white-haired old man in blue robes emerged from the chamber, looking refreshed. The subtle pressure radiating from him after a recent breakthrough silenced the crowd. Haibodong quickly stepped forward, disregarding etiquette, and stood directly before Xiao Kun. He cupped his hands and bowed. "Brother Xiao Kun, your pills are incredible," he said with genuine gratitude. "They not only restored my strength, they helped me achieve consecutive breakthroughs, bringing me into the late stage of Douhuang." Haibodong's thanks were sincere. 2 pills had carried him to heights he had not reached in decades, and his manner shifted from polite to affectionate. His earlier little friend Xiao Kun became the more familiar brother Xiao Kun, as if wanting to cement a closer bond. The Mittel family elders looked at Xiao Kun with newfound respect. Only then did they fully understand why Haibodong and Mitir Tengshan had treated Xiao Kun with such deference. His ability to produce such rare pills was invaluable. Pills capable of triggering breakthroughs in a Douhuang were nearly unheard of in the Jiama Empire. Perhaps only Pil King Guhi of the Cloud Mist sect could make any on occasion. Xiao Kun demurred modestly. It was also Elder Hai's solid foundation and cultivation that allowed him to make those breakthroughs. The pills were only part of it. "Ha ha, Brother Xiao Kun is too modest," Haibodong said, smiling. Haibodong's enthusiasm grew when he remembered the terrifying flame he'd seen the day before and the quality of Xiao Kun's pills. A few days earlier, aided by Xiao Kun's medicines, Haibodong had already broken up to the peak of 6-star Douhuang. At that point, the Zhenghuang pill's potency had been spent, and he was only one small step from the 7-star realm. He had intended to remain in seclusion and push through that final barrier himself. It was only yesterday, when Xiao Kun's energy eruption disrupted his cultivation, that he had been forced out. Seeing that dreadful flame then made him realize he still lacked sufficient strength, so he had returned to seclusion to train further. Chapter 104, Alchemist Convention. Under the strain of full effort in his cultivation, he finally pushed through that stubborn bottleneck and reached late-stage Douhuang. The surge of power was several times greater than before. He couldn't help but roar in triumph. After Haibodong accepted the congratulations from the senior members of the Mittel family, he let them return to their posts. Mitir Tengshan, having confirmed old Hai's condition, also left with the others, looking a little anxious. He had seen how effective Xiao Kun's medicinal pill was. Because he had to manage the family affairs, he hadn't immediately taken the king-rank pill Xiao Kun had given him, and now he wanted to hurry back and consume it so he too could break through. Once everyone else had dispersed, just as Xiao Kun was about to ask old Hai whether he wanted to attend the Alchemist Convention with the 3 of them, a golden stream of light flashed above the Mittel residence. The royal family's guardian, Peak Douhuang Jiaxing, had arrived. Haibodong saw Xingqian's approach and knew what it meant. Jia Xingqian had come to test the situation. He couldn't help but grumble inwardly. This old man truly spared no effort to safeguard the royal family, not even overlooking the smallest hidden danger. He came the moment there was any commotion. Though inwardly displeased, Hai Bodong didn't want to cause a scene. After a word to Xiao Kun, he spread his white, crystalline wings and flew up toward Jia Xingqian. As an in-law of the Mitel family, Xiao Kun also unfurled his golden-green wings and rose into the sky, with Yafei and Xiao Yan close behind. Jia Xingqian looked at the three young people beside Hai Bodong and frowned slightly as he sized them up. The wings of one man and one woman were true Du Qi manifested wings, surely Xiao Kun and Yafei, who had become well known around the imperial capital the previous night. The other young man, whose close rapport with Xiao Kun suggested kinship, had the rare flying dough technique, most likely Xiao Kun's younger brother, Xiao Yan. Given Xiao Kun's mysterious reputation, Jia Xingqian, ever the elder who cultivated connections, was the first to extend a friendly gesture. He opened his palm and said, "If I'm not mistaken, you three are Xiao Kun, Yafei, and young Xiao Yan." Perhaps out of respect for Xiao Kun and Yafei's Do Wang strength, or simply due to proper etiquette, Jia Xingqian addressed them by name. Xiao Kun was a little impressed that Jia Xingqian had identified them so quickly. It seemed the guardian truly missed nothing in the capital. "Old Jia," Xiao Kun greeted, and the three answered in turn. After the brief exchange, Jia Xingqian's curiosity about Xiao Kun grew, but his main purpose in coming was to ascertain Hai Bodong's condition. His sharp gaze turned to the refreshed Hai Bodong. Although Hai Bodong was an experienced Do Huang, the powerful aura that had been faintly present when he first emerged from the basement had already faded during his conversation with the middle family. When Hai Bodong flew beside him, Jia Xingqian couldn't immediately gauge his true strength and began considering how to probe him. Half a year ago, Jia Xingqian had sparred with Hai Bodong under the pretense of a reunion. He couldn't very well demand another sparring match now, especially if Hai Bodong had just broken through. Such a request would be awkward. Temporarily at a loss, the guardian switched his expression to a warm smile and offered the customary words. "Hai Bodong, congratulations on reaching late-stage Do Huang." Jia Xingqian's congratulations were a pretext to inquire. Hai Bodong, understanding his intent and unwilling to create tension, played along. "I was simply fortunate enough to cross the threshold into late-stage Do Huang." That answer confirmed to Jia Xingqian that Hai Bodong truly had broken through. Hai Bodong's casual disclosure also signaled he didn't wish to provoke the royal family, and Jia Xingqian decided against pushing matters further. After all, someone at late-stage Do Huang wasn't easily browbeaten, even by him. Late-stage Do Huang is no small achievement. Since you've taken this step, I must properly congratulate you. Why not come to the Imperial Palace so we can celebrate? Jia Xingqian then glanced at Xiao Yan. Young Xiao Yan is competing at the Alchemist Convention later, isn't he? It's being held at the Royal Plaza beside the Imperial Palace. If Xiao Kun and Yafei want to watch, we can all go together. Hai Bodong looked toward Xiao Kun for a moment. When Xiao Kun showed no objection, Hai Bodong smiled and replied, "It would be rude to refuse. Come to think of it, the old fellows haven't gathered in years." Jia Xingqian noticed how much weight Hai Bodong's opinion carried and inwardly rated Xiao Kun higher because of it. He mentally resolved to have his most capable granddaughter, Yao Ye, take the opportunity at the palace to probe and cultivate a rapport with Xiao Kun to see what she could learn. Xiao Yan didn't object, but he asked that a member of the middle family head on to the alchemist headquarters to explain that Otto and Snowcharm's people from Blackrock City might be waiting for him there. Xiao Kun and Yafei likewise had no objections. With that settled, the group transformed into 5 colored streams of light and flew toward the Imperial Palace. "That's where young Xiao Yan will compete, the Royal Plaza," Jia Xingqian said, pointing to the enormous plaza beside the Imperial Palace that could hold tens of thousands of spectators. "The rest of us will watch from the high platform in the VIP section." Xiao Kun looked down. The Royal Plaza was vast, capable of accommodating tens of thousands of onlookers. Fully armed troops guarded its perimeter to maintain order. The plaza was circular, with countless seats arranged on both sides, likely for ordinary spectators. Opposite those seats, the VIP section was lavishly decorated and reserved for leaders of the major powers and high-ranking officials of the Alchemist Guild. Across the plaza, thousands of bluestone platforms had been neatly laid out. A number of alchemists were already sitting cross-legged beside them, waiting for the convention to officially begin. Because Jia Xingqian and his retinue led the way, the ground troops made no move to stop them. Old Jia, you two should go on to the Imperial Palace first. The three of us will head to the VIP section and wait for you there, Xiao Kun said. All right, Hai Bodong and the other man replied without objection. They parted from Xiao Kun's group and flew toward the interior of the Imperial Palace, while Xiao Kun, Ya Fei, and Xiao Yan made their way to the VIP platform to take their places for the convention. Chapter 1 and 5. Fama, since Jia Xingqian led Xiao Kun and the others into the royal plaza, and because Ya Fei was a well-known figure in the imperial capital, the three bypassed the usual formalities and flew straight to the VIP seating. No one objected. In fact, the families seated in the VIP area were more curious than hostile. Shortly before, a long, whistling gust had swept across the city and a terrifying aura had been seen. Many had watched Jia Xingqian fly toward the middle family. Now an old man in a blue shirt stood beside him as they entered the palace. Was that the same person who had given off that fearsome aura? And since Xiao Kun and the others had come with him, they must know who the newly appeared Do Huang was. Hai Bodong had been sealed by Medusa for decades and kept a low profile after his return, rarely leaving the middle family. As a result, most of the people in the plaza didn't recognize the blue-shirted old man as Hai Bodong, which only piqued their curiosity. But because no one present felt confident enough to disturb a Do King, the three were left in peace. Xiao Kun looked around and noticed no familiar faces in the VIP rows. They'd clearly arrived early. In the front row, two white-haired elders in alchemist robes were seated side by side. Both wore purple robes, but one wore a light purple robe with 4 silver sigils shimmering across his chest, while the other wore dark purple with 5 silver sigils, the marks of a 4th grade and a 5th grade alchemist, respectively. Elder Fa, see that one with the purple wings? That's Xiao Yan. He took first in yesterday's prediction event, said the elder in the light purple robe, nodding toward Xiao Yan. The other two must be the prodigies who suddenly appeared these past 2 days. Xiao Kun and Ya Fei, both already Do Kings. I heard Xiao Kun and Xiao Yan are biological brothers. Lucky family, the elder in the dark robe replied with a soft sigh. Both men were contemporaries of Hai Bodong and recognized him, so they paid no attention to the blue-shirted old man. Their interest was squarely on the young talents who had just distinguished themselves in the prediction contest. Their attention did not go unnoticed by Xiao Kun and the others. Xiao Kun and Ya Fei remained impassive, but Xiao Yan smiled and gave a polite nod to the elder in the light purple robe. Third brother, sister-in-law Ya Fei, the elder in the light purple robe, is Che Mir, the vice president of the Alchemist Guild who ran yesterday's prediction event, Xiao Yan explained. Xiao Kun studied the two elders more closely. Che Mir wore an exquisitely tailored light purple robe. His wrinkled face carried a gentle smile, and his slightly cloudy eyes were calm and kind. The other elder, in dark purple, had skin like blackened bark and a face that looked as if it had weathered centuries, yet his eyes shone with a deep and knowing light. The respectful way Che Mir regarded him told Xiao Kun everything. This must be Fama, the president of the Alchemist Guild. Because there was no one to make formal introductions and Xiao Yan was not one for small talk, the group simply nodded their acknowledgments and fell silent. They took seats close together, Xiao Kun in the middle, with Xiao Yan and Ya Fei on either side. After a while of watching the crowd swell on the Bluestone Plaza, an excited voice rang out from behind them. Xiao Yan, I'm glad you made it. Xiao Yan turned and grinned. Great, Master Otto. Did you meet the messenger I sent? I did, which is why I hurried here. Seeing you now puts my mind at ease. Otto was visibly tense around Xiao Yan. With Xiao Yan's strength, and after taking first in the prediction event, it was likely he could place in the top 3 of this alchemist convention, which would bring significant resources to the Blackrock City Alchemist Guild. Otto and his companions had rushed to confirm Xiao Yan's participation. Xiao Kun turned to see who had called and found a middle-aged man in an alchemist robe accompanied by 3 others, a burly man and 2 young women. One of the girls, with waist-length silver hair, was Snow Charm, whom Xiao Kun had met before at the guild headquarters. It was clear the group came from Black Rock City. Xiao Yan introduced them. This is Great Master Otto and Great Master Frank from the Black Rock City Guild, and their disciples Snow Charm and Lin Fei. This is my third brother, Xiao Kun, and Ya Fei of the Middle family. They exchanged polite nods. The four from Black Rock, having spent much time at the guild, treated Xiao Kun and Ya Fei courteously out of respect for Xiao Yan, and nothing more was made of the meeting. Just as the introductions wound down, Lin Fei, small but strikingly built and far more animated than the reserved Snow Charm, stared at Xiao Kun and Ya Fei with wide-eyed astonishment. "Are you two the Do Kings who flew through the sky yesterday?" she blurted. Lin Fei had been out with some acquaintances the previous day and had glimpsed two figures streaking across the sky. She had assumed they were ordinary Do Kings, but later learned of their ages and names and had been shocked. They were of her own generation and already Do Kings. The thought both thrilled and intimidated her. Hearing their names now so close at hand left her momentarily speechless. She had never expected to meet the prodigies she had admired so suddenly. Chapter 106, Yao Ye. Just as Snow Charm was about to pull Lin Fei away, Lin Fei suddenly remembered and, eager but cautious, blurted out a question. "Is that true?" Xiao Kun and Ya Fei exchanged a calm glance and nodded, confirming the power they'd shown. They're Do King-level experts. The four from Black Rock City, including Lin Fei, stared in disbelief. A collective gasp rippled through them. Snow Charm, who usually kept a cold, composed expression, let her red lips part in astonishment, an unexpectedly charming sight. The atmosphere around the group, which had been relatively steady moments before, shifted and grew complicated. "I always thought Xiao Yan was a rare genius," Otto said with feeling after a pause. He was the one who knew Xiao Yan best. "But I never expected you two brothers to be even more exceptional. Accomplishing so much so young makes us feel ashamed." Xiao Kun answered politely. "Otto, great master, you're too kind. Being a fourth-grade alchemist is already an impressive feat." Otto felt a bit reassured. He had always taken pride in being a fourth-grade alchemist. Of course, he didn't know that if Xiao Kun pushed his refining further, given his soul realm at the late stage, even an 8th-grade pill would be easy for him. If he did know, Otto would probably be mortified. The group chatted with Xiao Kun for a few more pleasantries and then moved on. Otto pulled Xiao Yan over to pay respects to the two elders seated in the front row. Xiao Kun could overhear enough of their conversation to recognize the dry-barked-faced man sitting beside Mitchell as Fama, president of the Alchemist Guild. "Ya Fei, have you met these two presidents before?" Xiao Kun asked, nodding toward the front. Ya Fei shook her head calmly. "No, the strength I showed earlier wasn't enough to be on familiar terms with them." Soon, other familiar faces arrived. Nalan Yanran stepped forward to greet Xiao Kun and Ya Fei, but when she saw Xiao Yan chatting not far away, her expression hardened and she went to sit at a distance. Jia Xingtian and Hai Bodong followed. Both looked composed, their business at the Imperial Palace concealed behind serene faces. Behind Jia Xingtian walked two girls with sharply different airs, one small and mischievous, the other tall, cold, and elegant. The smaller one was the spirit monster Princess Yao Yue, wearing an alchemist's robe that gave her playful presence a touch of grace. The taller woman, draped in rich silk, bore a resemblance to Yao Yue, but carried a frosty glamour and the faint, noble bearing of the imperial family. Where Yao Yue was cute and sprightly, the other woman was all mature, regal charm. The moment Jia Xingtian and Hai Bodong appeared, the lively VIP section fell silent. Everyone wondered why the long-absent Imperial Guardian would show up at the convention. "Xiao Kun, Ya Fei, you must have been waiting a while?" Jia Xingtian greeted them first, and Hai Bodong gave a friendly nod. "Not too long. Did you come to any conclusions?" Xiao Kun asked. "Everything remains the same," Hai Bodong replied. Before the conversation could continue, an ancient voice rang out from the front of the VIP section. "What wicked wind blew today? Old Jia actually came out of hiding, and he brought Hai Bodong with him." Fama, a Do Huang and the influential president of the Alchemist Guild in the Jiama Empire, frowned and addressed Jia Xingtian with obvious surprise. "I only come out to look around once in a while after hiding for decades," Jia Xingqian said with a sweep of his gaze over Haibodong and Fama. It's been decades since the old fellows gathered, hasn't it? It has. Decades. I wonder how much longer any of us will last. Fama sighed. Jia Xingqian did not answer. Instead, he glanced at Xiao Kun and the others and said, As soon as I came out, I saw several astonishing young talents. You all know Xiao Yan, but his third brother, Xiao Kun, is even more remarkable, becoming a Do King before 20. And Yafei of the middle family under Haibodong is a Do King in her 20s as well. They're many times stronger than we were at their age. They might even peak at the legendary Duzong realm. New talent emerges every generation, Fama agreed, each one stronger than the last. Jia Xingqian and Fama praised the youngsters openly. Xiao Yan bowed and answered humbly, Thank you, but we still have a long way to go. Xiao Kun and Yafei smiled and nodded in acknowledgement. Xiao Kun added with a grin, You old fellows aren't out of it yet. Maybe you'll reach Dozong someday. Hearing that, Jia Xingqian's expression turned wry. He stroked his chin and shook his head. The bottleneck between Dohuang and Dozong trapped me for decades. I still can't break through. After a rueful sigh, as if to change the subject, Jia Xingqian pointed at the frosty, glamorous woman behind him. Xiao Kun, you should already know Princess Yao Yuo. This is Yao Ye. She's excellent at commanding troops. 50,000 soldiers guarding the Alchemist Convention are under her command. You young people should get to know one another. Jia Xingtian's suggestion was loaded. In his mind, Xiao Yan's talents were acceptable. Xiao Kun's displayed strength alone labeled him a Do King, but the intelligence and respect surrounding him, especially Haibodong's unusual deference, hinted that there was far more beneath the surface. Jia Xingqian suspected Xiao Kun might even be the reason for Haibodong's recent rise in status. Sending Yao Ye, whom he valued highly, to interact with Xiao Kun could be a good match. If they hit it off, even better. For an imperial scion like him, multiple wives were normal, 3 to 5 was nothing, which made the question of Xiao Kun and Yafei's relationship trivial to him. If the middle family could allow Yafei to go, why couldn't his family? His bold maneuver stunned those nearby. Haibodong was momentarily speechless at Jia Xingqian's attempt to emulate the Mittel family by tying Xiao Kun down through marriage. Yafei, who had been smiling beside Xiao Kun, watched Jia Xingqian's audacious suggestion and her expression went cold. The cheerful look vanished, replaced by a flash of anger. Yao Ye, this is Xiao Kun I told you about. He's already a Do King despite his young age, Jia Xingqian said, indicating Xiao Kun as he introduced him to the cold, beautiful woman behind him. At Jia Xingqian's words, Princess Yao Ye naturally turned her gaze to Xiao Kun. Her clear eyes shone. Whatever impression he'd made the day before at the Nalan residence had clearly lingered. Hello, Mr. Xiao Kun, she said, smiling and extending a long, slender, jade-like hand. Hello, young Miss Yao Ye, Xiao Kun replied, taking her hand with his right. He was inwardly surprised by the softness of the touch, but the contact was brief, careful not to leave a bad impression. The quiet smile from normally aloof Princess Yao Ye made the nearby family disciples mutter with envy. They took it as proof that Xiao Kun's status and position were earned through true strength, a level they could only dream of reaching. I hope you enjoy your time in the imperial capital, Mr. Xiao Kun. If you are not too busy, perhaps you might join us for a gathering after the convention? Yao Ye finished, bowing politely. Jia Xingqian had hinted at such a request, and she added the invitation naturally. Xiao Kun nodded. He couldn't explain why, but he felt an inexplicable affinity that made him inclined to accept. Immediately after he nodded, however, a cold pressure radiated from his side and a sharp pinch caught the soft flesh at his waist. He didn't need to turn to know why. Yafei's little jar of vinegar had exploded because he'd been too friendly with Yao Ye. Yafei, standing beside him, had the strength of a Do King and pinched without using her full force. Xiao Kun barely felt it, but to appease her and make her feel better, he pretended to be slightly hurt. That small display soothed Yafei, and she released him at once, though a flush of annoyance still colored her expression. She hadn't expected Jia Xingqian, with his old face, to be so shameless, flirting with a princess right in front of her. What angered her most was that Xiao Kun had agreed to the invitation so readily. The pinch was her loud, private protest. The small exchange did not go unnoticed. The crowd saw a side of Xiao Kun they hadn't seen earlier. He could act intimately with Ya Fei, who revealed a softness and delicate femininity few expected from someone as capable as her. Among the observers, the indifferent Hai Bodong only smiled. The match between the Xiao family and the Mitir family felt even more certain now. Yao Ye, satisfied, took her seat behind Jia Xingtian. Meeting Xiao Kun for the first time, she had been curious because of the praise he received. Seeing the relationship between him and Ya Fei made the prospect of any match more complicated, but it also made her less resistant to the possibilities. Befriending a talent like Xiao Kun was simply too valuable to pass up. A few courteous words later, Yao Ye bowed respectfully to Hai Bodong, Fa Ma, and Ya Fei. Her politeness eased some of Ya Fei's lingering irritation. The newly acquainted group then moved to their seats in the front row of the VIP section. For reasons no one bothered to question, Yao Ye sat down next to Xiao Kun, and Ya Fei took the other side. Xiao Kun found himself sandwiched between the two women. The brief warmth Ya Fei had felt toward the princess evaporated. Though annoyed, she continued to prod and tease Xiao Kun at times, like a possessive sovereign asserting her claim. Yao Ye maintained a slight, composed smile, occasionally joining the conversation with a measured comment that left Ya Fei momentarily speechless. If the setting had been different, and without so many eyes on them, Ya Fei might have used her Do King strength to make a point. Below them, the plaza filled steadily. Sitting on the bluestone platforms and around them were more and more alchemists, already taking up half the space, nearly 1,000 people. The regular audience stands were nearly full, conversations rising into a soft chorus of admiration as countless young women pointed out and praised the young alchemists preparing in the arena. The VIP section likewise approached capacity. Xiao Kun sat watching, sometimes drawn into Ya Fei's playful remarks. Between the two women, he inhaled 2 different faint fragrances and felt his thoughts wander for a moment. Shaking himself, he looked across the plaza and noticed 3 elderly men approaching the front row together, attracting a ripple of attention. The 3 were the clan chiefs of the major families. Xiao Kun recognized Nalan Jie and Mitir Tengshan, but the third was unfamiliar. Watching him more closely, Xiao Kun realized it was Mu Chen, chief of the Mu family, the same family Mu Zhan belonged to, the man who had been beaten half to death by Ya Fei the previous day. Mu Chen walked with a calm expression, greeting people as if nothing had happened, passing beside Mitir Tengshan without any overt sign of reproach. Mu Chen made no move to confront Ya Fei or demand redress. From his demeanor, he might as well have been pretending not to know Mu Zhan's fate. It was clear the Mu family was wary. Hai Bodong's exposure earlier, Ya Fei's strength, and Xiao Kun's mysterious presence had made them unwilling to provoke a force they could not afford to offend. Best to act as though nothing had occurred. Time flowed on. When the appointed hour arrived, a series of clear chimes cut across the plaza and the excited murmur fell into a hush. Fa Ma, president of the Jiama Empire Alchemist Guild, rose from his seat and walked forward. Under countless eyes, his aged voice, backed by resonant Do Qi, rang out over the venue. In the name of the president of the Jiama Empire Alchemist Guild, I announce that the 7th Alchemist Convention is officially beginning. A thunder of applause and cheers answered him. Fama stood in the front row of the VIP section, watching the plaza until the crowd's tumult subsided a little before he continued. Competitors, please take your designated seats. Though the plaza still buzzed with excitement, Fama's voice carried clearly to every corner, proof that his due emperor cultivation was no mere reputation. Chapter 108, Showcase of Strange Fire. Xiao Yan, Lu Ling, Princess Yao Yu, the 10 of you should go directly to the bluestone platforms in the center of the square. This is the privilege for placing in the top 10 of the preliminary prediction. Fama called out as many people in alchemist robes rose from the VIP area. Because the front of the VIP section hung dozens of meters above the square, those alchemists, only due practitioners and due masters, did not jump down. Instead, they walked along the passage behind the seats and made their way down to the square. Xiao Kun pointed toward the center. Sure enough, there were 10 bluestone platforms, several times larger than the others. Alchemizing on those platforms would be the focal point of the entire venue. When Xiao Yan and the other 9 heard about the special treatment, most of them looked excited. Xiao Yan, however, frowned slightly, reluctant to draw attention. "Fourth brother, don't overthink it. Hurry and compete. Get first place and give me something to be proud of," Xiao Kun said with a smile. "All right, third brother." Xiao Yan relaxed at the encouragement. While they spoke, relying on advanced Do techniques, Lu Ling and Princess Yao Yu, both Do masters, sprang from the VIP seats toward the square. A fall of dozens of meters would be dangerous for an ordinary Do master, but their skills were refined. 2 pillars of Du Qi burst from Lu Ling's feet to counter the descent, letting him land safely. Princess Yao Yu used a refined movement technique and drifted down like willow fluff. Their graceful landings elicited fresh cheers from the crowd. "You represent the Xiao family now, so don't let them overshadow you. And later, use your strongest flame directly," Xiao Kun added. In the original timeline, Xiao Yan's first use of the purple flame in alchemy nearly caused an accident and almost eliminated him in the first round. To prevent a repeat, Xiao Kun bluntly told Xiao Yan not to use the purple flame, but to employ the heavenly flame instead. Xiao Yan, who had been preparing to walk quietly to the square, paused at the order. He gave a wry smile, and a pair of purple wings suddenly unfolded from his back. Amidst the screams of countless girls in the audience, he flew straight onto his assigned bluestone platform. He stole the spotlight again. The crowd, which had just been cheering for Princess Yao Yue, now cheered even louder for Xiao Yan. The princess, who prized her face and honor, felt a sting of jealousy. But Xiao Kun was pleased. If everyone saw that someone with a lower cultivation like Xiao Yan possessed such a treasure, they would wonder what other trump cards Xiao Kun held. "Xiao Yan's flying Do technique is enviable. I wonder if it came from your excellency Xiao Kun," Princess Yao Yue asked, watching Xiao Yan with curiosity. Flying Do techniques were rare. She hadn't seen one since childhood. "You could say so," Xiao Kun answered without shame. The purple cloud wings had been obtained by Xiao Yan in the original story, but in this timeline, Xiao Kun had given them to him. "Oh, Mr. Xiao Kun certainly has many good things." Princess Yao Yue's surprised praise made her expression soften. She became even more curious about Xiao Kun. Yafei's earlier mention of the 9th grade treasure pill came back to Princess Yao Yue's mind, and she couldn't help nodding. Seeing the conviction on Yafei's face, Princess Yao Yue thought, "It seems Yafei's rapid progress really is thanks to Xiao Kun's help." Princess Yao Yu's intensified interest only encouraged Yafei, who immediately wanted to speak to Xiao Kun again to assert her own connection. The 2 women bombarded Xiao Kun with attention, and he found himself both delighted and troubled, juggling their questions and advances. Then the square fell silent. Over 2,000 alchemists held the newly issued pill formula from the Alchemist Guild, the test question, and studied it intently. The 2 women fell quiet as well, much to Xiao Kun's relief. "The competition begins," Fama announced. "The first round is simple. Refine a 2nd grade medicinal pill, the bone growth pill." Xiao Kun leaned in and explained to the 2 women, "This pill formula isn't a standard one. It can't be absorbed through soul power. It only lists the ingredients and their quantities, no detailed refinement method. That means the alchemist's fundamentals must be very strong. Will Xiao Yan be all right?" Yafei fretted. Xiao Yan had only practiced alchemy for 2 or 3 years and hadn't started young like others. "Don't worry," Xiao Kun said. "Although he began late, he has a famous teacher guiding him. Didn't I give him ingredients for a 4th grade pill to practice with 2 days ago? A mere 2nd grade medicinal pill won't trouble him." "Guidance from a famous teacher and a 4th grade pill?" Princess Yao Yu repeated the key details, astonished. She hadn't expected Xiao Yan to have such powerful backing. Was the master loyal only to Xiao Yan, or was he connected to others as well? The thought sharpened her attention. A few minutes later, those who had studied the formula took out their medicine cauldrons and ignited their flames. Thousands of fires burst forth like a bloom of fireworks, a magnificent scene that stirred everyone's blood. Cautious as ever, Xiao Yan kept studying the formula a little longer. When he finally reached for his cauldron, he took out the 6th-tier medicine cauldron gifted by Xiao Kun. Remembering Xiao Kun's instruction, Xiao Yan relaxed his hand and produced a cluster of azure flame in his palm. The instant the azure flame appeared, the 1,000 flames across the square seemed to bend toward it, as if bowing in submission. The legendary sight, Heavenly Flame appears, 10,000 flames submit, played out before all eyes. A heavenly flame! Gasps echoed throughout the VIP area when Xiao Yan used the green lotus core flame. Princess Yao Yu, unable to help herself, asked, "A heavenly flame, was this another gift from you?" Yes, Xiao Kun's succinct admission sent a shock through Princess Yao Yu. Her beautiful, icy face registered surprise and a new kind of curiosity. Chapter 109, Izumo Empire, Green Lotus Core Flame. Fama, a 5th-grade alchemist, immediately recognized the azure flame in Xiao Yan's hand. He exclaimed, "Young people today are truly something else. To possess a strange flame while only a great Do master, how can we old fellows compare?" Hai Bodong, sitting beside Fama, examined the azure flame and felt its power. It was terrifying, but unlike the golden-green fire curtain that had flared beside Xiao Kun's courtyard 2 days ago, whose mere presence had made his do-chi sluggish and his spirit tremble, the green lotus flame was within his tolerable range. "Indeed, I can't make sense of these youngsters," Hai Bodong said aloud, though his greater surprise was still from Xiao Kun's recent display. Jia Xingqian, not being an alchemist, felt less excitement over the flame itself, but he was sharp-eyed. He noticed a flicker of panic in Hai Bodong's usually calm gaze when the azure flame appeared. That small flash of fear confused him. The flame in Xiao Yan's hand shouldn't have rattled Hai Bodong so badly. Jia Xingqian began to wonder whether Hai Bodong had recalled something unpleasant from his decades of absence. The 3 elders at the peak of the Jiama Empire fell into a brief, troubled silence. In the center of the square, Princess Yao Yue and Lu Ling were also startled. The strange flame Xiao Yan produced sent ripples through the fires beneath their medicine cauldrons and nearly ruined the pills they were refining. Although they knew Xiao Kun had once used a strange flame to purge Nalanji's brand poison, seeing an actual strange flame, much less witnessing its effect on a dozen careful refineries, was a first. The flame's anomaly made the fires in their cauldrons fluctuate wildly. Only because their alchemical skill was decent did their pills survive. Many less practiced competitors were not so lucky. Black smoke rose from cauldrons all over the arena as the flames went haywire, and batches of pills were ruined. In an instant, countless participants failed their refinements. Just conjuring that strange flame had caused a massive disruption. Every alchemist present looked at the azure light with a mix of fervor and greed. Yao Ye, watching the scene, thought of what she'd heard earlier. Xiao Kun had given Xiao Yan that flame and had used a strange flame himself a few days ago to remove a poison. She called out, "You gave Xiao Yan that azure flame and you used a strange flame recently to remove Nalanji's brand. Do you have a strange flame of your own? Is it stronger than Xiao Yan's?" Xiao Kun only smiled. "Yes, I have one, and it's a little stronger than Xiao Yan's," he replied. "2 of these treasures? How did you even acquire both?" Yao Ye marveled. Ya Fei, unable to keep quiet, chimed in with praise for Xiao Kun. He just smiled, declined to explain, and turned his attention back to Xiao Yan's alchemy. Seeing that he wasn't going to answer, Yao Ye let it go and watched the competition unfold. The first round required refining a 2nd-grade bone growth pill and placing it on the detector beside the bluestone platform. A larger, purer green pillar of light meant a better pill. A red light meant failure and elimination. Xiao Kun had every confidence in Xiao Yan. True to expectation, Xiao Yan, whose craft was already capable of 4th-grade pills and who was assisted by the strange flame, finished first. When his pill was tested, the detector shot up a green pillar far taller and purer than the others, marking his pill as top grade among its peers. The crowd erupted in cheers. The second success did not come from Liu Ling or the favored Princess Yao Yue, but from a nondescript corner, a slender figure wearing a bamboo hat, quietly refining. His speed was startling, and the pill he produced was excellent. The green pillar his pill produced was only slightly inferior to Xiao Yan's. His sudden prominence drew attention from the whole arena, including Xiao Kun. Probing with soul power, Xiao Kun sensed an unusual depth to the man's spirit. What followed was swift. Thinking the man had hidden his identity in violation of the rules and possibly being unfair to Xiao Yan, Xiao Kun pushed his soul power out and shattered the bamboo hat into powder. The hat exploded, revealing a young face, a boy of perhaps 16 or 17. A badge on his chest bore the image of a brilliant sun rising over the horizon, the symbol of the Izumo Empire. His affiliation was exposed. The young man from Izumo froze. Terror showed on his face. Despite a cultivation near that of a Dew King, he had not sensed how his hat had been destroyed, nor who had done it. That unknown method unnerved him. The implication that someone from the Jiama side could so easily unmask or threaten him made him doubt whether he should continue the competition. He had been confident of winning, but now the threat felt immediate and invisible. The hat's sudden shattering also stunned a number of powerful figures. Hai Bodong, Jia Xingqian, Fa Ma among them. All had been on the verge of making covert moves, only to find someone had acted first. More troubling was that none of them could detect who had done it. After scanning a few times, Hai Bodong noticed Xiao Kun sitting calm and smiling, chatting with Yao Ye and Yafei as if nothing had happened. Xiao Kun's complete lack of reaction was itself suspicious. It seems likely Xiao Kun was the one who moved, Hai Bodong concluded inwardly. Knowing Xiao Kun's unfathomable strength made Hai Bodong relax. He kept his suspicions to himself, kept a neutral expression, and watched as Fama and Jia Xingqian fretted needlessly. Chapter 110, General Meeting. Adjourned. Because of their strength, the crowd in the arena wasn't very concerned about the sudden shattering of the bamboo hat. Most people's attention was on the youthful face revealed beneath it. This person looked younger than anyone who had ever appeared at a convention. "The Izumo Empire sent someone here," murmured those nearby. "They must be trying to win the Alchemist Convention to undermine the Jiama Empire's Alchemist Guild. Where did they find such a powerful talent?" Yafei, quick-witted as always, was the first to piece together the motive behind the Izumo Empire's appearance. The two empires are neighbors with mutual hostility. This isn't surprising. Still, they dared send such a strong candidate to Jiama. Do they really trust us so much they don't fear we'll make sure he never goes back? Princess Yao Yue looked puzzled. "He's certainly impressive." Xiao Kun smiled and answered their questions. "You're both wrong. That youth from the Izumo Empire isn't actually young. He changed his appearance by using a medicinal pill. In truth, he's at least middle-aged." "Oh." The two understood at once, but were curious how Xiao Kun had reached that conclusion. Yafei asked first, "How could you tell?" "Besides his unusually vast soul power," Xiao Kun replied with a smile, "the rest is a secret." Because the effects of such a medicinal pill are subtle to the eye, Xiao Kun couldn't say outright what tipped him off. He certainly couldn't explain that he'd recognized it from novels he'd read in a previous life, so he left the mystery hanging. Yafei and Princess Yao Yue were not unreasonable. Seeing Xiao Kun wouldn't elaborate, they didn't press him. "Medicinal pills can be miraculous," Yafei sighed, touching her own even more youthful cheek where the Ding Yan pill had taken effect. Princess Yao Yu nodded without probing the deeper meaning. The second round of the competition was about to begin. After the first eliminations, the number of participants in the square had dropped from 2,000 to nearly 1,000. When the round officially started, each contestant pressed a red button on their blue stone platform. A seam opened in the stone, and supplies, medicinal ingredients, and a pill formula materialized on the stage. The task this round was to refine the third-grade Windwalk pill within the allotted time. Unlike the first round, this pill formula was genuine. By channeling soul power into it, the exact refining method would be transmitted into the alchemist's mind. Everyone who received a pill formula began to refine at once. As time passed, failures began to pile up. Xiao Yan and many others had already failed at least once. Most assumed their mistakes were about temperature or rhythm, but the experienced-looking contestant from the Izumo Empire had confidently begun a second attempt. "Something's wrong," Yafei whispered from the VIP section, watching the contestants stare around in confusion. "It's only a third-grade pill. There's no way even Xiao Yan and Princess Yao Yue should be failing repeatedly." Princess Yao Yue frowned. "Yes, something's off." Xiao Kun smiled and pointed out, "There's a problem with the pill formula. It has an extra ingredient, thick earth Ganoderma. That's why so many people are failing. That's nasty. Yafei's voice tightened with concern. After a failure, alchemists rarely blamed the formula. They usually assumed the fault lay with themselves. That was why this round was so cruel. Princess Yao Yu noticed how quickly Xiao Kun had spotted the anomaly. Combined with earlier rumors that Xiao Kun possessed a unique flame, it suddenly seemed likely that he was no ordinary young man. The idea that someone so young could be at the unreachable Do Wang realm and still have time for alchemy left her inwardly astonished. She grew even more curious about him. "Don't worry," Xiao Kun said calmly. "After failing once, Xiao Yan will have seen the issue. Look, he's starting again." True to form, Xiao Yan maintained a composed expression and began his second refinement. This time he succeeded and produced a windwalk pill of the highest quality, earning first place for the round. The Izumo Empire contestant finished shortly after, taking second. Because only 2 sets of ingredients had been provided per platform, many were eliminated after failing twice. By the end of the round, of the 1,000 who had started, only a little over 100 had successfully refined the Windwalk pill and remained eligible for tomorrow's finals, a high elimination rate. After refining came inspection, just as in the first round. Xiao Yan's pill, refined with his unique flame, was judged the best without dispute. By the time the inspections finished, the sky had darkened and a small crescent moon hung overhead. "Everyone, today's convention ends here. Tomorrow will be the true finals. I hope none of you are absent, otherwise you'll regret it," Fama announced with a laugh, officially closing the day's events. Princess Yao Yue stretched her long, fair legs and turned to Xiao Kun and Yafei. "I'm hosting a banquet tonight to celebrate Lu Ling and Xiao Yan," she said with a smile. "Are you two free?" Xiao Kun was about to agree when he caught the killing intent in Yafei's eyes beside him. The look made him change his mind at once. "Let's ask Xiao Yan first," he said instead. "I'm the same as Xiao Kun," Yafei added. Princess Yao Yue, who did not catch the nuance in Xiao Kun's tone, brightened. Since he hadn't refused outright, she felt encouraged. She looked toward Xiao Yan as he spread his wings and flew over after the competition. Xiao Yan landed before them. Princess Yao Yu smiled and asked, "Xiao Yan, would you be able to attend a celebration banquet tonight?" Xiao Yan, who disliked social gatherings, shook his head with a wry smile. He refused politely, but firmly. Princess Yao Yue looked a little disappointed. She had been hoping for his presence, and his refusal meant Xiao Kun likely wouldn't attend either. She quickly recovered her composure and smiled. "Then we'll gather some other time when you're free." They all agreed, offering polite assent. With that, the trio parted ways from Princess Yao Yue and made their slow return to Yafei's courtyard, drawing admiration and curious looks from the crowd as they passed. Chapter 111, Confession. After the 3 returned to the courtyard, Xiao Yan went back to his room to cultivate, trying to recover from a day spent refining medicines. Xiao Kun, by habit, walked into Yafei's room. When Yafei closed the door behind them, she didn't greet him with her usual warmth. Instead, she sat down in a chair, crossed her arms, and turned her face away, expressionless. Her whole demeanor said clearly, "You've done something wrong. Hurry up and make it right." Xiao Kun stared, taken aback by the unfamiliar chill. After thinking it over, he concluded she was jealous. He had been a little too friendly with Yao Ye earlier, and Yafei had noticed. He wasn't good at placating girls, so he tried the simplest tactic: act innocent and smooth things over. "What's wrong? Why are you upset all of a sudden?" he asked, concern in his voice. Yafei was ready for him to plead and apologize. That was why she'd put on a sulky act. She hadn't expected him to play dumb. She didn't believe he was genuinely oblivious. He was feigning it. And now she couldn't very well admit she was jealous about Yao Ye. That would be petty. Forced to choose an excuse, she swallowed her pride and gave a flippant answer. "Oh, it's nothing. I was just thinking about some things at the auction house. It's not important." Xiao Kun admired how quickly she could slip back into calm. Relieved that she wouldn't make a scene, he relaxed, until a new worry surfaced. In 2 days, he'd be visiting the Cloud Mist sect. When he met Yun Yun there, the truth about his closeness with other women would come out. Dealing with 2 hurt women at once would be much harder than handling Yafei alone. So he decided to clear the air with Yafei now and leave Yun Yun for when he saw her. He took a steadying breath and chose his words carefully. Yafei, is it true you can't accept me finding someone else? She froze. She hadn't expected him to broach the subject, and his guilty look made her suspicious. You haven't taken a fancy to Xiao and want to marry her too, have you? She demanded. No, of course not. I'm about to get engaged to you. Why would I think about that? Xiao Kun hurriedly explained. Yafei breathed out and then, cautiously probing, said, So was this just a test of my attitude? When he denied any such intention, she let out a small, relieved sound, then hesitated and blurted out the truth. I haven't been thinking about Xiao, but you have to understand. I've seen a lot during my 3 years traveling and training. Before we were engaged, I already... Xiao Kun didn't finish the thought, but Yafei's sharp mind understood. Her eyes reddened and tears welled up. She had long known that someone as exceptional as Xiao Kun might be difficult to keep to herself, but knowing didn't make it sting any less. For a long moment, she couldn't speak. Seeing her on the verge of tears, Xiao Kun felt a pang of guilt. He stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her, holding her tightly. He didn't force words. He just stayed there, offering his warmth. The contact seemed to steady her. Yafei breathed deeply several times in his embrace. Perhaps it was his sincerity, or the fact she'd already braced herself for this possibility, but the worst of the sorrow ebbed. She paused, then buried her face in his chest and whispered, I know I can't bind you to myself alone, but you. She trailed off. Xiao Kun knew what she wanted, a promise. He answered softly and earnestly, I'm sincere with you. I'll treat everyone fairly. You'll all be my lawful wives. I believe you. Yafei's voice was small but sincere. Then, with a touch of nervousness, she asked the question that could complicate everything. How many is everyone? Xiao Kun had thought about this. For now, to keep things simple and to avoid stirring up unnecessary trouble, he would only admit to the one person everyone already knew about. There was no need to bring up tentative plans or people he hadn't formed ties with yet. Only one, he said. Relief swept over Yafei. She had feared he might have several others. Knowing there was only one eased her mind enough that she slid closer to him, almost possessive. Who is she? She asked. Xiao Kun smiled awkwardly and lowered his voice. He looked toward the cloud mist sect beyond the capital and said, Yun Yun. Yun Yun, Yafei repeated in surprise. How did you two become close? Yafei thought of Yun Yun, an accomplished cultivator who'd spent decades in the Cloud Mist sect, now its sect master, a figure of calm and authority. It seemed impossible to her that such a woman would fall for a youth not yet 20. The idea that Xiao Kun had won Yun Yun over both shocked and intrigued her. Xiao Kun explained patiently how they had met, how their relationship had grown, and what Yun Yun's personality was like. He filled in enough detail to make it clear their connection had been genuine and respectful, laying the groundwork for Yafei to accept the arrangement in the future. Chapter 112, Finals. No wonder, you all used fake names, but you recognized Yun Yun early on, and she didn't know you were from the Xiao family, so you have a few tricks up your sleeve when it comes to deceiving girls. Yafei suddenly saw through it and seized on the loophole, turning on Xiao Kun. Xiao Kun hadn't expected to be teased even here. He fumbled for an excuse and only managed an awkward laugh. Humph. Yafei snorted and let it drop. There was no point in lingering over such trivialities now that everything had been explained. Seeing she wasn't going to press it, Xiao Kun felt as if he'd passed a small test and breathed easier. He then began to speak gently, soothing Yafei and trying to lift her mood, laying groundwork in his mind for future domestic bliss. Time passed slowly. Xiao Kun sensed a familiar aura approaching the courtyard, and on closer inspection, realized it was Hai Bodong. When Hai Bodong arrived, he explained the reason for his visit. He and Fama suspected that the Izumo competitor from the previous day had been hiding his true identity. He asked if Xiao Kun and the others wanted to investigate to see whether this supposed dark horse was cheating. Xiao Kun wasn't interested in chasing down a man who had only reached the peak of Do Ling and was near Do King. His priority was to mollify Yafei. Everything else could wait. He declined. Xiao Yan, however, was curious and agreed to join the investigation. After they left, only Xiao Kun and Ya Fei remained in the courtyard. Early the next morning, Xiao Kun looked down at Ya Fei sleeping in his arms. Her face was even rosier than before. Remembering the previous night's excesses, he smiled to himself. He'd certainly worked to make up for yesterday. No wonder she seemed exhausted and slow to wake. Less than an hour remained until the Alchemist Convention finals. Xiao Kun gently shook Ya Fei awake. The moment she opened her eyes and saw the mischievous grin on his face, she remembered last night. Her brows tightened, her cheeks burned, and a familiar blush returned. They dressed and washed in an awkward silence. When they opened the door, Xiao Yan was already ready. Word of yesterday's dramatic contest had spread. Even more people had been drawn to the finale. The three walked toward the Royal Plaza, with a crowd heading the same way. Sensing the awkwardness, Xiao Kun asked Xiao Yan what he'd learned the previous night. Ya Fei looked over curiously as Xiao Yan explained everything. The so-called genius from Izumo hadn't been a genius at all, but Yan Li, the vice president of the Izumo Alchemist Association, a man in his 30s or 40s who'd taken a face-changing pill to impersonate a youth. Though Xiao Yan and the others had recognized him, the face change was too thorough to expose. For the sake of the Jiama Empire's alchemist reputation, Fama had decided to let Yan Li continue, placing his hopes on Xiao Yan to win. "It doesn't matter," Xiao Kun said. "You've already mastered the three-pattern Azure Spirit Pill. You can face Yan Li head-on. He won't get away with this." "Thanks, third brother," Xiao Yan replied. They chatted as they walked. At the Royal Plaza, a long queue snaked to the entrance. Without Jia Xingqian to guide them, the three slipped into a secluded passage used by the major families. There was no line there, and the guards were familiar faces. They passed through smoothly. Xiao Kun and Ya Fei went to the VIP section, while Xiao Yan went to the bluestone platform at the center to prepare. They'd arrived late because of Ya Fei. Familiar faces, Hai Bodong, Yao Ye, and others were already seated. As soon as Xiao Kun and Ya Fei entered the VIP area, heads turned. A pair of young Do Kings drew attention wherever they went. Xiao Kun sat in the front row, and before he could settle, a tall, graceful figure took the empty seat beside him. Yao Ye had come over again. Ya Fei, watching the interaction, subtly pinched Xiao Kun to remind him to be discreet. He returned Yao Ye a polite nod. Dong! A clear chime rang out above the plaza, signaling the start of the competition. Fama's cough, carried by his dochi, hushed the crowd. His aged but authoritative voice rang across the stands. "Today is the final and most important match of the convention. The winner will be crowned champion. Give it your all." A roar rose from the audience. When it died down, Fama announced the rules. Participants must supply their own materials and refine their most powerful medicinal pill within the allotted time. The highest grade pill would determine the champion. Many of the finalists' faces fell. A lot of them lacked the foundation or the necessary ingredients and formulas to refine a Tier 3 pill or higher. That meant they stood no chance at the title. But Princess Yao Yue, Liu Ling, Xiao Yan, and Yan Li were in a different league. After exchanging determined looks and bold declarations, they prepared their flames. Perhaps because it was the finals, aside from Xiao Yan's Green Lotus core flame, the other top contenders revealed extraordinary fires. Princess Yao Yue summoned the dry blue water flame from the royal family's guardian beast, the Nether Sea Flood Dragon. Liu Ling produced an unfamiliar light brown Tier 5 beast fire. Yan Li unleashed a streak of pitch-black flame. Each unique flame drew gasps and exclamations from the audience. Chapter 113, The Convention Ends, 2 chapters combined. The beast fires, superior to ordinary flames, still fared no better than common flames when confronted with the Green Lotus core flame, a true strange fire. The beast fires all leaned and tilted toward Xiao Yan as if paying tribute. Powerful flames aren't everything. Yan Li snorted coldly. This competition meant everything to him. If he won the championship, Fama and the others, unwilling to be accused of persecuting a genius from another nation, would be reluctant to execute him. More than that, humiliating the Jiama Empire's Alchemist Guild could secure him the presidency of the Izumo Empire Alchemist Guild. Seeing his initial advantage so easily suppressed by Xiao Yan's strange fire left him furious. Princess Yao Yue and the others on the field produced their trump card flames, each rare even within the Alchemist Guild, but each was immediately subdued by Xiao Yan's strange fire. Yao Yue and Lu Ling exchanged wry smiles. They had believed their beast fires were nearly equal to a strange fire, but the display made the gap painfully clear. Shaken though they were, both adjusted quickly and began their refinements. Xiao Yan ignored the crowd's astonishment and focused solely on refining. With the practice ingredients Xiao Kun had provided, he felt confident even tackling the 3-pattern Azure Spirit pill, the most difficult 4th-grade pill in the test. "How did you know what they'd test?" Ya Fei asked in the VIP section, thinking of the pill formula Xiao Kun had given Xiao Yan days earlier. "I guessed," Xiao Kun said coolly. He couldn't say more without revealing how much he really knew, so he kept his air of mystery. "If Xiao Yan refines the 3-pattern Azure Spirit pill according to the formula, the championship should be guaranteed, right?" Ya Fei pressed. Xiao Kun smiled. "No problem. The 3-pattern Azure Spirit pill, 3 distinct patterns, is the pinnacle of 4th-grade pills. The others can at best reach 4th grade. Yan Li may be vice president of the Izumo Alchemist Guild, but judging by his technique and soul power, his success rate on a 5th-grade pill would be low. He wouldn't risk it in a contest like this. A single failure on a 5th-grade pill leaves no chance for a second attempt." Ya Fei nodded. Seeing Xiao Yan's calm, she allowed herself to hope. "Then congratulations in advance to Xiao Yan for winning the championship." Yao Ye, who had been listening quietly, quickly added her congratulations. Xiao Kun watched Xiao Yan with quiet confidence. He had already prevented the mishaps that had occurred in the original timeline, so failure now seemed impossible. As predicted, Xiao Yan advanced smoothly to the crucial 3rd pattern. His face grew solemn as he prepared to introduce the 3rd strange flame needed for the pill, the bone-chilling flame of Yao Lao. He replaced the purple flame inside the cauldron with the bone-chilling flame. Wisps of white mist formed around the azure cauldron, and the air temperature dropped sharply. Nearby contestants stared in alarm. Why would someone chill the cauldron while refining a pill? Because Xiao Yan had blocked the flame entrance with his right hand before letting the bone-chilling flame into the cauldron through his palm, no one could see the true cause. They could only guess. Ya Fei noticed the anomaly and raised her soul power to inspect, following Xiao Kun's urging. Frost clearly condensed on the cauldron, yet when she probed with her soul power, she felt intense heat. Confused, she reported the contradiction. Xiao Kun chuckled. "It's a strange fire, white flame, bone-chilling flame. It combines extreme cold and extreme heat. Anyone who wields it is a dangerous opponent." Ya Fei, unfamiliar with the strange fire rankings, nodded slowly. Yao Ye listened in stunned silence. She hadn't expected Xiao Yan to possess 2 strange fires at such a young age. That should be impossible for an ordinary person. Obtaining 1 strange fire is rare. 2 is unheard of. Her first impression of the Xiao Kun brothers shifted. They had been hiding far greater strength than she had imagined. In the square, Xiao Yan's expression hardened. Then suddenly, he slapped the cauldron with his right hand. The lid flew off and an azure pill leapt out. Xiao Yan snatched it with a due technique and held it aloft. "He succeeded," rippled through the crowd. Because the bone-chilling flame had frozen the colored medicinal fragrance that would normally announce the pill's completion, the scent did not spread. The audience was skeptical. No one expected Xiao Yan, already first in the first 2 rounds, to refine a pill that didn't even emit fragrance. Their curiosity grew. Xiao Yan raised the pill high. A 4th-grade pill, the 3-pattern Azure Spirit pill. Fama, who had feared losing the convention to Yan Li, was the first to cheer, and his voice was followed by a roar from the square. Everyone marveled that Xiao Yan had defeated the Izumo contenders so decisively. Yan Li's face drained of color. He saw Xiao Yan's pill, the 3-pattern Azure Spirit pill, and understood his Purple Heart barrier-breaking pill could not possibly match it. A cold dread flooded him. The purple pill in his cauldron trembled on the brink of failure. He forced himself to calm down. If Xiao Yan's pill was fake, there was still hope. He took a breath and focused. A moment later, a rich purple medicinal fragrance burst from Yan Li's cauldron. His Purple Heart barrier-breaking pill had been successfully refined. He snatched it, then fixed his glare on Xiao Yan's azure pill and examined it closely, searching for a flaw. Xiao Yan did nothing to stop him. Instead, he displayed the pill proudly, forcing Yan Li to confront the truth. Other contestants finished in turn. Only Princess Yao Yue and Lu Ling managed fourth-grade pills, but theirs were low-tier and could not compete with Xiao Yan or Yan Li. Yao Yue and Lu Ling were not overly disappointed. Their first attempt fourth-grade results were notable enough. As citizens of the Jiama Empire, they were chiefly relieved Yan Li had not won. Fa Ma stepped forward to announce the result. Therefore, the champion of this convention is Xiao. Wait! Yan Li's shout cut through the quiet. Grasping at a final hope, he demanded, I request the contestants' pills be inspected for authenticity, as in the previous rounds. Otherwise, someone could substitute a similar-looking pill. Fa Ma looked at Xiao Yan, who nodded. If he refused, the crowd would suspect foul play. Fine, Fa Ma said. Neutral alchemists will inspect the pills. Under Yan Li's anxious gaze, the neutral inspectors examined Xiao Yan's pill and declared it genuine. Yan Li sagged to the ground, then scrambled up and hurried away. He felt the cold stares of Fa Ma and the others. He knew better than to linger. Then the champion of this convention is Xiao Yan, Fa Ma announced. The square erupted. People jumped to their feet, cheering and waving. Ya Fei in the VIP section slapped her thigh and laughed, pointing at Xiao Yan. Little brother Xiao Yan really won. Your guess was right. Yao Ye beamed and joined in the congratulations. Xiao Kun smiled quietly, pleased. Xiao Yan did not linger to bask in the applause. He walked calmly toward the passage beneath the VIP section and climbed up. Xiao Kun noticed fatigue on his face. Even with Xiao Yan's higher cultivation now, the strain of refining the three-pattern Azure Spirit Pill had been significant. Congratulations, fourth brother, on winning the Alchemist Convention Championship, Xiao Kun said first. Thank you, third brother, Xiao Yan replied. Ya Fei and Yao Ye offered their congratulations as well. Other influential figures in the VIP area, Haibodong, Jia Xingqian, Fa Ma among them, came to pay their respects. Nalan Yanran and Nalan Jie kept their distance, unwilling to approach someone they knew was unfriendly. After the greetings, Xiao Yan accompanied Fa Ma to complete the formalities, claiming the prizes and filing the paperwork. Every convention champion becomes an honorary elder of the Jiama Empire Alchemist Guild, and the necessary procedures had to be taken care of. With nothing else to do, Xiao Kun and Ya Fei returned to the Mi clan together. Chapter 114. Xiao Zhan arrives. Night had fallen. While Xiao Kun was discussing arrangements with Ya Fei, he suddenly felt an aura erupt from Xiao Yan's room, an unmistakable surge of a 7-star Great Dough Master. It looks like Xiao Yan advanced again after his sparring, Xiao Kun said. Yes, that makes us even more confident about the match the day after tomorrow. It's just, Nalan Yanran's strength is very well hidden. Even I can't get a read on her, Ya Fei replied, worry creasing her brow at the thought of the 3-year agreement. Don't worry, there won't be any problems. Xiao Kun had earlier used his soul power to probe Nalan Yanran's strength, but his scan had been blocked by an energy membrane formed around her, something preventing any clear reading. Still, in the original timeline, Xiao Yan had won the contest. Now his cultivation was 6-star levels higher than the 1-star Great Dew Master from that version, and after using the 3 mysterious transformations of the Heavenly Flame, he could contend with a Douling. Those facts together made Xiao Kun confident. They kept to their usual routines the next day, not changing their cultivation or lives because of the impending 3-year agreement. When the sun rose high, Haibodong appeared at the middle family gate and knocked. Xiao Kun opened his eyes from the green lotus sacred seat where he had been meditating, tidied himself, and opened the door. Elder Hai, what brings you by so suddenly? Is there news about the Cloud Mist sect? You asked me to look into the Cloud Mist sect's affairs, Haibodong said with a smile. I heard that tomorrow Yunyun, the sect master herself, will preside over the competition. Today the sect announced that anyone of status who wishes to come may attend as spectators. Oh, Yunyun is hosting in person, and they issued no formal invitations, only an open notice? Xiao Kun muttered. In the original timeline, Yunyun had been absent, and the Cloud Mist sect's Grand Elder Yunling had hosted, issuing broad invitations to major families to assert their authority. Why had things changed now? Xiao Kun's memories of his previous life grew clearer as his strength rose, and that helped him piece things together. In the original timeline, Yun had gone looking for Xiao Yan after she saw a fragment of the Sea Heart armor he dropped during his clash with the eight-winged Black Serpent Emperor. That search made her miss the 3-year agreement. In this life, since that incident never happened, Yun had remained at the sect and would preside over the match. Naturally, she would neither arrogantly invite factions to watch nor bar observers. Yun carried the detached, aloof bearing expected of a true sect leader. Then, what do you think the Cloud Mist sect's real intentions are? Hai Bodong asked. He'd heard Xiao Kun's mutter, but wanted more. Xiao Kun shook his head. Nothing certain, just a few personal thoughts. Let's not dwell on them. Hai Bodong accepted the answer and continued, concern returning to his voice. We're heading into Cloud Mist sect territory. Their cloud smoke covering sun array and Yun's presence make them formidable. The previous sect master, Yun Shan, handed the title to Yun when he was an 8-star Do Huang. If he's still alive, he may well have broken through to Dozong by now. I don't doubt your strength, Xiao Kun, but do you have the confidence to face such a lineup? Easier than turning my hand over, Xiao Kun replied lightly, a smile tugging at his mouth. Satisfied by the certainty in Xiao Kun's voice and by the other oddities the young man had already displayed, Hai Bodong laughed. They chatted a few more minutes when a burly guard captain burst into the courtyard, saluted, and reported breathlessly, Grand Elder, young Master Xiao, outside the Mittil estate, 2 middle-aged men have arrived. One claims to be young Master Xiao Kun's father, called Xiao Yan. I came straight away to inform you. Xiao Kun brightened. Ah, father did say he'd come to watch Fourth Brother's match. That must be them. Sensing the guard captain's cultivation with his soul power, Xiao Kun tossed a medicinal pill to him. Good work. Consider this a reward. The guard captain's eyes widened. He'd heard things about young Master Xiao's mysterious gifts. He accepted the pill with a grateful grin, then looked toward Hai Bodong with a pleading expression. If young friend Xiao Kun's generous, please, accept it. Hai Bodong glanced at the man's hopeful face, inwardly amused, and accepted. Thank you, young Master Xiao Kun. The guard carefully put the pill in his storage ring and clasped his hands in thanks. Xiao Kun laughed, letting his voice carry with a pulse of doqi. Fourth brother, father has arrived. Come with me to welcome him. The doqi-laced voice reached Xiao Yan instantly, snapping him out of meditation. He flung open his door, excitement lighting his face. All right, third brother, let's go. Xiao Kun went to the main gate and saw 2 familiar figures standing in the courtyard, Xiao Zhan and the amethyst-winged Lion King, now in human form. He hurried forward. Father, Xiao Yan stepped up beside him. Yanner, Kuner, after a month apart, you've both grown a bit taller. Xiao Zhan smiled. The 2 youths really did seem a shade taller, almost his height. We just turned 18. Growth spurt, Xiao Kun grinned. Was your journey smooth? Yes, is everything well back home? Xiao Yan asked. Everything's fine. The trip was smooth, Xiao Zhan answered, smiling. He turned to the Lion King. Lion Guardian, young clan leader, young Master Xiao Yan, the Lion King greeted. Xiao Kun introduced them to Hai Bodong. This is my father, Xiao Zhan, and this is the Xiao family's Lion Guardian. And that's the Grand Elder of the Middle Family, Elder Hai. Chapter 115, Usage of the Experience Card. After Xiao Kun finished introducing everyone, the guests exchanged greetings. You're all honored guests. Please come inside with me, Hai Bodong said hastily. It felt inappropriate to keep talking while standing in the doorway. Thank you, Xiao Kun and his companions replied, and they followed Hai Bodong into the mansion. As they walked away, only 6 guards remained at the entrance, including the squad leader. One of the guards nudged the leader and said in a teasing tone, Leader, did young Master Xiao Kun give you anything this time? Last time someone in our auction house who reported to Supervisor Yafei got a 3-pattern Azure Spirit Pill from young Master Xiao Kun. He used it, broke through from Domaster to Great Domaster, and is now a squad leader. Young Master Xiao Kun won't be stingy this time either, right? The story about Xiao Kun rewarding the guard who reported to Yafei had already spread among the middle family guards. For them, such opportunities didn't come often. When they learned that the visitor at the door was Xiao Kun's father, the rumor smelled very much like a chance to be favored. But because of the nature of their duties, any reward would first go to the squad leader. The cheeky guard pressed for news. If the leader had been rewarded, maybe they could share the spoils, or at least get treated to a few nights of fun. "Don't talk nonsense," the squad leader snapped, smacking the guard's head irritably. "Whether young Master Xiao Kun gives out gifts or not is none of your business." Seeing the leader's brusque response, the guard assumed there'd been no reward and put on a disappointed face, until the leader added in a low voice, "But young Master Xiao Kun did give me something." The guard's eyes lit up. The squad leader checked to make sure no one was coming, then pulled a jade bottle from his storage ring, the very one Xiao Kun had tossed him earlier. When he uncorked it, a rich medicinal scent filled the air. Inside sat the pill that had left such a mark on their hearts. "A 3-pattern azure spirit pill," the squad leader breathed. The pill's reputation, how it had helped that guard break through, how Xiao Yan had later used it to win the alchemist convention, made it legendary among them. Seeing one in hand made him utterly astonished. "Another 3-pattern azure spirit pill. Young Master Xiao Kun is too generous," the previously cheeky guard exclaimed, staring at the pill worth decades of effort. "Congratulations, leader. Should we go celebrate at the pleasure quarter tonight?" one guard suggested. "We'll need some exotic food, too," another chimed in. The squad leader looked at the pill and laughed. Compared to a pill worth nearly 1,000,000 gold coins, treating a few subordinates would only cost a fraction, 10,000 gold or so. He quickly agreed. A moment later, he slipped the pill back into his storage ring, waved them off, and barked, "Enough! It's duty time. Stop talking, or we'll get in trouble. Tonight, we'll all go out together." The guards shut up and resumed their posts. The entrance of the middle family returned to its quiet routine. Inside the reception hall, Hai Bodong led the group deeper into the compound. They all settled down and exchanged polite conversation. As he watched the Xiao family members, Hai Bodong realized Xiao Yan, whom he'd heard described as a Douling, had the strength of a Dou king. The Xiao family's lion guardian was powerful as well. His violent Du Qi and unnaturally strong physique made him seem almost beast-like. With those discoveries, Hai Bodong's impression of the Xiao family changed entirely. Even leaving aside Xiao Kun's own unknown potential, the family's members were stronger than the middle families. He found himself much more respectful toward them. Shortly after, 2 people hurried in, Mitir Tengshan and Ya Fei, who had been handling family affairs. Hai Bodong had sent word that Xiao Kun's father had arrived, so they came quickly. Compared to Mitir Tengshan's constant smile, Ya Fei looked restrained. She appeared to know what was coming. After brief introductions to Xiao Zhan and the Lion Guardian, Xiao Kun rose and walked over to Ya Fei. Under Ya Fei's stunned gaze, Xiao Kun gently took her soft hand and led the slightly stiff young woman in front of his father. Smiling, he announced loudly, "Father, my greatest gain from coming to the imperial capital this time is my relationship with Ya Fei. I've promised her I will come to the middle family to propose after my 3rd brother completes his 3-year agreement. I hope you'll give your blessing." Xiao Zhan was stunned for only a moment before he slapped his thigh and laughed with delight. "Haha, Kuner, I didn't expect you to be so capable. I grant my permission 1,000 times over." "Thank you, father," Xiao Kun said with a bright smile. Ya Fei, still dazed, reddened and stammered, "Thank you, uncle." "Good, good, good," Xiao Zhan beamed, delighted to hear her call him uncle. They discussed the proposal and the appointment with the Cloud Mist sect set for the next day, reached an agreement, and then broke up. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Yan, and the others returned to Ya Fei's courtyard. Outside the reception hall, Hai Bodong and Mitir Tengshan watched them go. "Judging by Xiao Zhan and the Lion Guardian today," Hai Bodong murmured, "the Xiao family is hiding a lot more power than anyone expected. They've risen from a family whose highest cultivator was only a great Dew Master a few years ago to where they are now. There must be a backing we can't see. For the middle family to ally with them through marriage, we're definitely marrying up. We can't be careless. With the Xiao family's help, our family can advance much further, but we must handle everything carefully." "You're right, Elder Hai," Mitir Tengshan agreed. "It's a great fortune to be connected to them. We'll be cautious." After everyone left the reception hall, Xiao Kun and his father walked to Xiao Kun's room alone. "Father, how are the arrangements back at the estate? Have you distributed the experience cards I gave you?" Xiao Kun asked. "Kuner, don't worry. I've already given some of the experience cards you passed to me, those sealed with Peak Do Huang and Peak Do Zong strength, to a few trusted aides. I've instructed them to watch over the family secretly. With them guarding things, nothing should go wrong." "That's good." Xiao Kun relaxed. A month earlier, after he returned to the family, he'd tested the Do King experience card from the system's novice gift package and found out others could use it too. That meant the Do Huang and Do Zong experience cards that were useless to him personally could still be put to use. He'd given his father several of those cards and asked him to place them where they'd do the most good. Hearing that his father had already distributed some of them to protect the family eased his mind. Chapter 116, 3-Year Agreement. To be honest, if the experience card couldn't be used by others, Xiao Kun would never have felt comfortable letting the amethyst-winged Lion King visit. Leaving an 8-winged black serpent emperor who coveted Qinglin alone in the family made him uneasy. Even though Xiao Kun promised to provide the Black Serpent Emperor with resources like transformation pills, the reward the Black Serpent Emperor would get if he took Qinglin back to the Heavenly Serpent Mansion would be substantial, so Xiao Kun was never truly reassured. There was also the possibility that experts from the Hall of Souls might come to the family while he was away, which added to his worry. With the experience card as a guarantee, however, his anxieties eased. When evening came, perhaps worried that Xiaojan would find out she and Xiao Kun had shared a room before marriage, Yafei refused to let him sleep in her room that night. He had no choice but to return to his own room, one he hadn't slept in for a long time. Time passed slowly until the hot sunlight poured back into the small courtyard where they lived. The 3-year agreement, important to both Xiao Yan and the Xiao family, had finally arrived. After washing, the group gathered in the courtyard and found Mitir Tengshan and Hai Bodong already waiting outside. Since the two of them had agreed the day before to travel to the Cloud Mist sect with the Xiao family, the family members treated them more warmly. Their choice, even without full knowledge of the reasons, clearly sided with the Xiao family over Cloud Mist. Because Xiao Kun knew them fairly well, he stepped forward and greeted them. "Elder Hai, Patriarch Tengshan, it's still early. The people at the Cloud Mist sect might not have gathered yet. Let's wait until noon before heading over." He didn't know how many would go to watch the contest, and it would be awkward to arrive before the hosts were ready. Yesterday, they'd only agreed to go together, not on a time. Since Xiao Kun was currently the strongest among them, both elders nodded at his suggestion. When the sun reached its zenith, Xiao Kun lifted his head and stared at the colossal mountain peak standing in the distance. The peak was bright and white, jutting between heaven and earth like a giant sword, the location of the Cloud Mist sect. Because of his own strength, Xiao Kun no longer placed the 3-year agreement on a pedestal. As long as he showed his power, the humiliations the Xiao family had suffered would vanish. Instead, his thoughts were on Yun Yun. He was about to see her again, which would likely require another round of explanations. That prospect was the real headache. He kept that thought to himself and looked at the young man beside him, who was also watching the mountain. "Xiao Yan, we're counting on you today. Bring honor to the Xiao family." Even if Xiao Yan was likely to win, encouragement was still necessary. Xiaojan, Yafei, and the others also voiced their support. "Thank you." "I will," Xiao Yan replied solemnly. Xiao Kun then turned to the robust, amethyst-winged Lion King, draped in purple, and smiled. "Lion King, we'll trouble you to take us there." "No problem, young clan leader," the Lion King rumbled. Xiao Kun had planned this, arriving at the Cloud Mist sect with a late-stage Do Huang demonic beast as their mount would be far more intimidating than flying there together. Since the Lion King's strength had advanced, its body had grown from 7 or 8 meters to over 10, big enough to carry 6 people, including Xiao Kun. The Lion King agreed, and a burst of purple light radiated from its form. Xiao Kun's eyes narrowed slightly. When the light faded, the amethyst-winged Lion King stood before them, over 10 meters long, its body encrusted with purple crystals, continuously reflecting dazzling light under the sun. Haibodong and Mitir Tengshan, who had long suspected the Lion King was a demonic beast, were stunned to see its true form revealed. Yafei, Xiao Yan, and Xiao Zhan already knew, but the Lion King's real body was so conspicuous that it had never been shown in the Xiao family. This was their first time seeing it, and they, too, were momentarily speechless. "Let's go, everyone," Xiao Kun called, the first to leap onto the Lion King's back. His shout snapped the others back to attention, and they climbed on one by one. "Ready? Let's go." Xiao Kun scanned the group to make sure they were prepared, and the Lion King pushed off with massive crystalline claws. Its enormous 10-meter wings beat fiercely, whipping the courtyard branches into a frenzy as it took off and headed for the Cloud Mist sect. A demonic beast of that size crossing the sky over the imperial capital caused a stir, but when people with sharp eyes saw riders on its back, they realized it was a tamed mount and relaxed. Envy rippled through the crowds. What a formidable flying mount. Except for Xiao Kun, everyone else looked thrilled. For them, flying on a Dohuang demonic beast was a novel experience. The imperial capital lay only a few dozen miles from the Cloud Mist sect, so although the Lion King did not fly at top speed, they arrived at the Cloud Mist sect mountain peak shortly after. From above, Xiao Kun saw the peculiar sight at the mountain's base, an unbroken line of white tents housing tens of thousands of elite soldiers. The imperial family had stationed them there because of their fear of the Cloud Mist sect, and the sect, wary of the imperial family's suspicious nature, tolerated the deployment. Nothing had erupted because the Cloud Mist sect knew that as long as their massive organization remained intact, the army at the foot of the mountain dared not act. He scanned further and found a stone path that rose from the mountain's base up to a large plaza at the peak. Thousands of people sat neatly on stone platforms flanking the plaza, wearing moon-white robes with cloud-patterned long sword emblems on their cuffs, Cloud Mist sect disciples. On one side of the plaza, a series of tiered stone seats climbed upward, the higher seats signifying seniority. On the highest tier sat a woman in a tight-fitting azure brocade robe, her long black hair coiled like a morning phoenix, noble, composed, and undeniably beautiful. She was Yun, the woman whose place in Xiao Kun's thoughts had made his day more complicated than any agreement. Below her, more than a dozen white-robed elders sat in meditation with their eyes closed. The Cloud Mist Sect's Elder Council. Chapter 117, Seeing Yun again. Below the dozen or so elders sat a single stone seat occupied by a woman in a moon-colored robe. The breeze clung the fabric to her slender form, outlining a perfect figure. Looking closer revealed the familiar, beautiful face of Nalan Yanran. Across the plaza, carved seats were set into the wall for guests. Fama, Jiaxingchen, Nalan Jie, and several leaders and juniors from other families were already seated. Because Xiao Kun and his group had ridden a demonic beast straight up to the Cloud Mist sect, bypassing the usual inspection at the mountain's base, a Do King elder rose from his seat and prepared to fly up and intercept them. Halfway there, however, the amethyst-winged Lion King erupted with a magnificent late-stage Dohuang aura that swept through the sect. The air churned, a thunderous roar followed, sending shockwaves that left disciples beneath the great Master realm dizzy and disoriented. When the roar died away, stunned silence fell. The elder who had risen to stop them froze in midair. Confronted by a demonic beast at least as strong as the sect master, he dared not advance. Down in the plaza, many of those seated snapped to their feet. Yun's brows creased with a flicker of worry and confusion. The Lion King's huge body blocked their view of the riders, leaving only vague human silhouettes. If the mount itself could emit a Dohuang aura, then the people on its back must be formidable indeed. That thought alone drove most to stand. Then the black-robed youth atop the Lion King unfurled purple wings and rose, hovering above the beast. His voice rang out across the plaza. "Xiao family, Xiao Yan, I have come to keep the 3-year agreement." At once, the stunned hush gave way to uproar. Cloud Mist sect disciples stared up at the young man. Xiao Yan's name was no stranger to them, often invoked in jokes and gossip because of Nalan Yanran. They had ridiculed the unknown youth who had once been betrothed to their goddess and nearly became the sect's young leader. After the annulment, many had felt jealousy and scorn toward him. Now, the very man they'd mocked rode in on a Do Huang-level demonic beast, the equal of their sect master, to fulfill the agreement. The contrast was staggering. Many couldn't believe their eyes, and some began to wonder if Nalan Yanran had been the unworthy one. Nalan Yanran looked up, shock breaking across her beautiful face. By all appearances, the Xiao family's strongest should have reached only Do King. Yet here they had a Do Huang-level mount. What were they hiding? Fama and Jia Xingqian shared a grave look. A Do Huang beast like that was usually kept as the foundation of an imperial family, treated almost like a grand elder, fed well, and rarely shown in public. If the Xiao family could so casually send out such a beast, their reserves and hidden strength had to be enormous. The implications were worrying. Nalan Jie let out a long sigh, bitterness settling on his face. He regretted failing to stop Nalan Yanran from annulling the engagement. Judging by everything now, Xiao Yan was not only a suitable son-in-law, but part of a family on the rise. If the three major families had to bow to the Xiao family in the future, the Nalan family would be in serious trouble. Although Yunyun had seen the amethyst-winged Lion King before, its size and strength had increased so much that she did not recognize it at once. Knowing a Do Huang's presence required a personal response, she unfurled her azure wings and rose to meet them. She flew to a position opposite the Lion King and opened her mouth to speak. Then her eyes landed on a young man behind the beast. Her composed face went blank. "Xiao Kun, why are you here?" she blurted. How could Xiao Kun, whom she had assumed was a young master from some major Central Plains power, be involved with the Xiao family from a small city in the Jiama Empire? The question showed on her face. Xiao Kun only smiled. He spread golden rock wings, flew forward, and said warmly, "Yunji." He glanced toward the seat Yunyun had once occupied and added with a teasing smile, "Yunji, Yunyun, it seems you've been keeping secrets from me." Flustered, Yunyun shot back, "Then why are you here with the Xiao family, Xiao Kun?" Xiao Kun's smile widened. "I like using aliases. My real name is Xiao Kun of the Xiao family." The confession stunned her. If Xiao Kun had come up with Xiao Yan, their relationship had to be close. Worried about how the 3-year agreement might complicate things, Yunyun asked cautiously, "What is your relationship with Xiao Yan?" "We're biological brothers." Xiao Kun answered simply, seeing her worry and wanting to put her at ease. The admission made Yunyun's heart lurch. She hadn't expected the man who'd been involved in the broken engagement 3 years ago to be Xiao Kun's brother. Wouldn't that make things awkward between her and Xiao Kun? She stammered apologetically, losing some of her sect-master composure. I should have stopped it back then. I blame myself." "It's all right," Xiao Kun said easily. "It has little to do with you. Besides, we don't care much about that anymore." Chapter 118, Reconciliation Hearing. Xiao Kun's comforting words, the panic that had made Yun look like a startled girl, slowly subsided. A trace of guilt replaced it, and she fell silent for a long moment. Xiao Kun, watching her, felt a swell of emotion and even a quiet pride. If he could make Yunyun, the dignified sect leader who had been sitting above the plaza, show such expressions, then he must matter to her. He had liked Yunyun in his previous life. After spending time with her now, those feelings returned and intensified. As for Yafei, Xiao Kun loved every woman he cared for genuinely, in his own way. The silence grew awkward, so Xiao Kun stepped forward to ease it. Under Yunyun's surprised gaze, he leaned close and murmured into her ear, "It's all right. Don't read too much into it. Given our relationship, once the duel between Nalan Yanran and Xiao Yan is over, whether she wins or loses, we can just let it go." Yunyun did not pull away. Accustomed to Xiao Kun's closeness, she only felt a warmth against her cheek, and a sudden rush of color crept up her pale face. It was only when she noticed the curious stares around them that she took a belated step back. She inhaled deeply, suppressed the fluttering in her chest, and the blush faded. Xiao Kun's small gesture had done its work. Her earlier unease and guilt eased considerably. Understanding his intent, she gave a faint smile and laughed. Thank you." Then, turning to Xiao Yan, she offered a conciliatory bow and a smile that held an apology. "Hello, I am Yunyun, sect master of the Cloud Mist sect. I apologize on behalf of my disciple, Nalan Yanran." Her actions were thoughtless. Please accept my apology. Xiao Yan watched a Dohuang-level expert speak to him with such plain courtesy, and his favorable impression of her rose. He had once assumed that a master who tolerated a headstrong disciple like Nalan Yanran must be lacking, but Xiao Kun's introduction in the imperial capital and the hint of a deep connection between Xiao Kun and Yunyun had already shifted his view. Seeing her now confirmed it. His third brother, Xiao Kun, had indeed found someone remarkable. Xiao Yan returned her smile. Not at all. Sectmaster Yunyun is too polite. Since you say so, I won't hold it against her. Thank you, little brother Xiao Yan. Yunyun answered warmly. Her presence and behavior in the sky surprised everyone, those watching from the plaza and those riding the amethyst-winged Lion King alike. Only Ya-Fei felt a pang of unease. The people on the back of the amethyst-winged Lion King saw everything clearly. When Xiao Zhan noticed the unusual intimacy between Xiao Kun and Yunyun, he shot a discreet glance at Ya-Fei. Seeing her eyes dim slightly, Xiao Zhan felt a mix of admiration and apprehension. Admiration at Xiao Kun's bold capability and worry that his recklessness might hurt Ya-Fei, whom he regarded as a good daughter-in-law. Hai Bodong and Matir Tengshen, also on the Lion King's back, exchanged astonished looks. They had come expecting trouble with the Cloud Mist sect. Instead, they found Xiao Kun had quietly won the sect leader's favor. No wonder he had been so unflappable. Their admiration for him climbed. On the plaza, Nalan Yanran, at the center of the whole affair, was in turmoil. She couldn't understand how Yunyun, who rarely left the sect and whom she had served for over a decade, could be so intimate with Xiao Kun without her knowledge. Worse, Xiao Kun had made the usually graceful noble Yunyun display an expression like a young girl's. That was something Nalan Yanran had never seen. Her feelings toward Xiao Kun, who was her peer in age, became sharply conflicted. Jia Xingqian on the opposite stone wall felt unsettled as well. He had learned of Xiao Kun's mysterious nature and had tried to win him over, even sending Yao Ye, because the Xiao family's ties to the imperial family and their strength made them valuable allies. The unlikely closeness between Xiao Kun and Yunyun suggested that his plans might be spoiled, and that unsettled him. Yunyun, meanwhile, paid no mind to the other's thoughts. After receiving Xiao Yan's understanding, she shifted her attention to the group on the amethyst-winged Lion King. Xiao Kun introduced everyone, except Xiao Yan to her, even pointing out the Lion King itself. He mentioned Yunyun's identity again and casually noted that she and he shared a very special relationship, but he did not elaborate on Ya-Fei's status, only saying she was Ya-Fei of the middle family. Ya-Fei, having been forewarned by Xiao Kun, kept her expression composed and said little, which eased Xiao Kun's tension. Yunyun nodded and greeted each person kindly. Her intuition caught the careful, scrutinizing look Ya-Fei cast her way, so she glanced at the girl a few extra times before fixing her attention on Xiao Zhan. Clan Chief Xiao Zhan, I'm very sorry for Nalan Yanran's earlier behavior. After the fight, I'll have her come over and apologize. Perhaps because of his regard for Xiao Kun and the favorable impression he'd formed of Yunyun, Xiao Zhan smiled at the sect leader he had once disliked. Sectmaster Yunyun, you flatter me. I stopped taking this to heart long ago. Thank you for your understanding, Clan Chief Xiao Zhan, Yunyun replied. Then, realizing she was speaking to Xiao Kun's father, she cupped her hands in a junior's gesture without thinking. The small courtesy brought another smile to Xiao Zhan's face. With the mood among them softened, Xiao Kun took the moment to speak up. It's getting late. Let's settle this grudge quickly. Let the fight begin. Those in the sky agreed, and the group broke into positions. Yunyun's contingent returned to the Cloud Mist sect. The Xiao and Middle families moved to their reserved viewing spots. In the middle of the plaza, the arena, Xiao Yan stood alone, ready for the duel to start. Chapter 119. The Duel Begins. When Yunyun returned to the Cloud Mist sect stand, she chatted with Nalan Yanran for a few moments. After Nalan Yanran nodded repeatedly, looking a little shaken, Yunyun returned to her reserved seat atop the stone wall with a satisfied expression. When Xiao Kun and the others reached the spectator area, they greeted Jia Xingqian, Fama, and the other guests from the Jiama Empire before finding empty seats and taking them. Before they sat, the amethyst-winged Lion King emitted a burst of purple light and shifted into human form, causing a stir through the arena. Those who knew the signs understood what that meant. For a demonic beast at the Do Huang stage to take human form, it had to consume a precious transformation pill, a 7th-grade pill now extinct in the Jiama Empire. In many ways, such a pill was more precious than a Do Huang itself. The fact that the Xiao family possessed one drew even more attention. Sensing the time was right, Yun rose slowly and called out, "Everyone, this 3-year agreement will be presided over by me, Yun. This match is meant to be friendly sparring and must stop before any serious injury. Frankly, this 3-year agreement was instigated by my disciple, Nalan Yanran. No matter the result of the fight, all grievances between the two of you will be resolved here." Her words sent a roar through the venue. The disciples and elders of the Cloud Mist sect were stunned. They had hoped this fight would showcase the sect's strength and raise its prestige. They never expected their sect master to openly admit fault before the match began. To many, it felt like Yun was undercutting the sect's dignity. Yunling, the chief grand elder, seated among the dozen or so elder men beneath Yun, sprang to his feet and, turning toward her, cupped his hands and protested, "Sect master, isn't such a statement a little inappropriate?" Although Yunling recognized the power of the Xiao family and understood Yun's reasons for avoiding a strong enemy, he could not accept the public concession. He thought of Yun Shan, who had already broken through to Dozong in the sect's back mountains, and his confidence only grew. "Yunling, be quiet!" Yun's voice cut him off sharply. The familiar authority in her tone immediately quelled him. Reverence won out over his objections, and he sank back into his seat, swallowing his reluctance. Yun's rebuke also silenced the Cloud Mist sect's murmurs. "All right, the duel will begin when the two of you decide," Yun said, and sat down. Nalan Yanran stepped lightly onto the plaza and stopped 50 meters away from Xiao Yan. Her eyes held a trace of regret as she looked at the black-robed young man across from her, the same person she had called worthless years ago. After a long moment she spoke, voice steady. "I will not marry someone I do not know. Whether you were worthless then or not, I should have annulled the engagement. Perhaps I handled it the wrong way. I apologize. I have experienced a lot in the last 3 years, and I've gradually let go of my resentment toward you. Since you have acknowledged your mistake, let us settle our past grievances in this duel." Xiao Yan was surprised to hear Nalan Yanran apologize. He guessed Yun's words, and the Xiao family's power had made her see reason. His tension eased. A moment later, a thick, green set of armor of condensed do qi wrapped around Xiao Yan. He grabbed the hilt of the ruler on his back with his right hand, yanked it free, and the Xuan heavy ruler cut a suppressive gust through the air as he pointed it off to the side. Nalan Yanran, startled that Xiao Yan had shown such force from the outset, immediately circulated her do qi and formed a slender, light green do qi armor that cloaked her graceful figure. She extended a jade hand. The storage ring on her finger flashed, and a delicate, light green longsword materialized. Its tip slanted toward the ground and reflected a cold gleam in the sunlight. The near-physical armors on both of them astonished the onlookers, especially the 1,000 or so Cloud Mist sect disciples. They had not expected their young sect leader, Nalan Yanran, barely 20, to have reached the great Do Master level. Given how solid her armor looked, she was clearly not a novice. Her talent could rank among the top 10 in the sect's history. And Xiao Yan, considering his age, frightened them even more. He had also reached Great Do Master at only 18. That placed him on a path to become a powerhouse like the sect's founder, Yun Potian. The realization sent a chill through everyone. Of course, Xiao Kun remained inscrutable. His breath-concealing jade pendant hid his realm, and he used rock wings, so the Cloud Mist disciples still assumed he was merely a genius who used a flying do technique, and they were not overly surprised by him. "Begin!" someone shouted. Xiao Yan stomped hard. Bluestone cracked beneath his feet as he blurred into a green shadow and surged toward Nalan Yanran. The Xuan heavy ruler scraped the ground and sparks flew, gouging a deep furrow. Nalan Yanran watched him calmly. Her technique favored wind attribute methods, speed and agility, so she was confident she could dodge and counter. When Xiao Yan closed to within 10 meters, Nalan Yanran twisted and became a streak of green, darting to the side. Her jade hand snapped the sword forward, and several razor wind blades formed along its length, streaking toward Xiao Yan's vulnerable neck. Xiao Yan lightly lifted his right hand and used the Xuan heavy ruler to block. The wind blades struck the ruler with a shower of sparks and dispersed. Xiao Yan pivoted and swung the massive ruler toward the spot where Nalan Yanran had flashed. The pressure carried on the blow made her skirt cling to her body, revealing her figure. She brought her sword up to parry, and the two weapons met with a terrible force. Nalan Yanran's sword bent under the heavy impact. She tapped the ground to back away on the resulting momentum, then unleashed several large wind blades to stem Xiao Yan's advance. Chapter 120, Victory in the Match, Part 1. While Xiao Yan was briefly obstructed by the wind blades, Nalan Yanran leaped into the air. The longsword in her jade hand thrummed, slicing the air and leaving 5 illusory energy blades in her wake. Seeing Xiao Yan rushing toward her, she shouted the name of her technique, Wind Spirit Splitting Sword. The 5 illusory blades linked end to end and shot forward like a single long arrow, leaving cyan streaks through the air. When they neared Xiao Yan, they split apart and darted toward different vital points on his body. Faced with the 5 fierce sword shadows radiating a powerful aura, Xiao Yan ran on, curling his left hand in a faint gesture. Using flame sculpting, he formed 5 crude cyan short swords of heavenly flame and sent them out to meet Nalan Yanran's energy blades. When the two forces collided, they only held for an instant before the heavenly flame-crafted blades began to extinguish the profound rank energy swords. Gradually, the illusory longswords faded until only 5 half-length cyan blades, controlled by Xiao Yan, remained hovering. Even crude, swords shaped from heavenly flame easily overcame Nalan Yanran's profound rank technique. With a flick of his left hand, Xiao Yan sent his 5 cyan blades streaking back toward Nalan Yanran, forcing her onto the defensive. As she fended off the blades, an aura around Xiao Yan surged. He unleashed his full power as a 7-star Great Dough Master. His speed skyrocketed. A black shadow he charged like a bolt and suddenly materialized in front of her, swinging his heavy ruler in a crushing overhead arc. Nalan Yanran, preoccupied with defending against the cyan blades and surprised by Xiao Yan's sudden acceleration, had no choice but to meet the blow with her longsword. Sword met ruler. The impact bent the longsword into a semicircle. It groaned as if about to snap. Ha! Xiao Yan roared, pouring more strength into the strike. The force shoveled a deep trench into the bluestone ground as Nalan Yanran was pushed backward. With another surge, Xiao Yan's pressure became too much to hold. The defender was struck and sent flying. Xiao Yan pressed his advantage and pursued, but Nalan Yanran's speed while airborne appeared to slow inexplicably. She drifted and wavered like willow catkins, evading his follow-up attacks. She had activated the Cloud Mist sect's willow catkin movement, matching his speed closely. Amid the stunned exclamations of the sect's disciples, the two became 2 constantly flashing streaks of light across the plaza. Relying on her movement technique, Nalan Yanran managed to hold her own against Xiao Yan's superior realm. The duel had reached a tense balance after many exchanges. 2 sharp rips of air sounded above the viewing platform prepared for the Jia Empire guests. 2 figures seemed to teleport onto it. Once they arrived, all eyes in the audience turned toward them. One of the newcomers was a handsome middle-aged man in a light cyan robe, Pil King Gu He, whom Xiao Kun recognized from their time in the Tagore Desert. Behind him stood his disciple, Liu Ling. Many in the audience, including Jia Xingqian and Fama, showed surprised delight and stepped forward to greet them. Elder Jia, Elder Fa, I didn't expect you to come today. I was delayed by some alchemy matters. Please excuse me, Gu He said with a polite smile. Standing before 2 peak Dohuang experts of the Jiama Empire, he was careful not to be presumptuous. He hadn't noticed Xiao Kun at first. Xiao Kun had not immediately risen to greet him. But when the others finished their salutations and returned to their seats, Gu He finally spotted the familiar figure sitting on a stone bench nearby. On being noticed, Xiao Kun offered a slight smile. Gu He's expression shifted to surprise. He had thought a genius like Xiao Kun wouldn't linger in a minor place like the Jiama Empire for long. He had assumed Xiao Kun's pursuits would carry him elsewhere, and had quietly moved on. Seeing Xiao Kun now, and remembering his attempts to get closer to Yun, Guhe felt a sudden jolt of alarm. He hurried across the platform. "Brother Shikwan, long time no see. What brings you here?" Guhe greeted. "Elder Guhe, it's been a while. I owe you an apology. I've lied before. My real name is Xiao Kun. I'm from the Xiao family, and I'm Xiao Yan's older brother. He's the one competing in the arena," Xiao Kun said. Guhe froze. He had never expected that the inconspicuous Shikwan was actually Xiao Kun of the Xiao family, someone who might have many chances to be near Yun. The revelation clouded his expression. "Those traveling abroad often use aliases," he said awkwardly. "Thank you for understanding," Xiao Kun replied. Hai Bodong and the nearby spectators overheard the exchange and realized the two shared a past. Curiosity about Xiao Kun's connection to Guhe intensified. As Guhe watched the duel, his gaze caught the cyan flame surrounding Xiao Yan, and his heart leapt. He had been searching years ago for a cyan heavenly flame in the Tagore Desert, the same hue. Memories of the past and Xiao Kun's odd behavior in the Snake People Royal City collided into a single, frightening thought. Medusa's heavenly flame had always been what he sought. Could it be that Xiao Kun had obtained it and secretly passed it to his younger brother? How could Xiao Kun have managed such a thing? What ties did he have to the mysterious person involved? Guhe glanced at Xiao Kun, but swallowed the questions. He had failed to acquire the flame himself. Accusing someone without proof would be fruitless and improper. He forced himself to remain calm for the moment. Back in the arena, after a long, tense struggle, neither side had yet claimed victory. Feeling he had gauged Nalan Yanran's strength, Xiao Yan decided to end the fight. He slammed his heavy ruler into the ground, sending a plume of dust upward, then swung again toward Nalan Yanran. From within the dust cloud, a black shadow appeared to assault her. Mistaking that shadow for Xiao Yan, Nalan Yanran immediately unleashed a profound rank Do technique, firing it at the black silhouette.